Hi there. All right. Here we go. Hi, everyone. All right. How's it going? Hi, Jenny and Tess, Dorothy, Monica, and Ed. Oh, and Austin, you're back. Yay. All right. How's it going, guys?
Great. Love the rain.
Isn't it nice? Isn't it great?
Great.
Actually, it used to be in the past that whenever it rained and all I was teaching was in person. Rain in Santa Barbara is like people think they're gonna melt and no one, like half the class would miss class on rainy days. Fortunately, it never rained, so it wasn't a big deal. But today I got everyone who came to my morning class is a high flex class, which is both Zoom and in person. But everyone showed up and I thought, God, people forgot their bed. We like rain so much, and these people who come like being in person so much that they all showed up. So that was cool.
Deanna, we can't see you.
Oh,
There we are. Oops.
can you see me now?
No. No.
Hold on, the computer, the webcam is disconnected. No, here it is. I taught the whole morning and someone said they couldn't see me. Oh, funny.
I hope you weren't screen
Here it is.
sharing.
No, it's just that I also have, no, I see what's, I also have my laptops. When I
Oh,
teach
now
in the
it's,
morning, when I teach I'm in the back connecting stuff. When I teach in the morning, I also teach with my laptop. So people see me on laptop, but usually they tell me that they can't see me in the main picture. So for some reason, and there's people here who have their Zooms on and they could see me in the background. So I guess they didn't notice they weren't seeing me through the main one. So it took hours, but thank you for telling me.
I like your vote sticker.
Hey, Diana,
Thank you. Yes.
it's Jenny. I'm gonna be listening in on my phone because I forgot to bring my laptop this morning.
Okay.
But I'll have it around 2. So if you call me or anything and you don't get me, yeah,
Yeah, okay, that's
Okay.
fine. You're in the car, so, okay, great.
thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for telling me. All right, so Austin, did you manage to watch the recording of last week's class? I don't know if you can write in the chat, because a lot happened last week. Not last week. I always say it. Yeah, in this case, it was last week. Today's Tuesday. So yes, it was last week on Thursday. If you didn't, I'm waiting to see if you write in the chat, Austin. If you didn't get to watch it, then today we're gonna keep moving forward from there. But I'm gonna have us using a file that we all work together. So I put it in the handouts. So that you can catch up to that. But meanwhile, I'm trying to sign into, remind me again, how many of you guys are on VDI? I'm trying to remember if this class I need to do on VDI or not. I think it's just Jenny. Austin, you're on VDI. I'm not hearing any responses from you, Austin, so I'm not sure if you don't have the chat available or, yeah, you do, because you said hi. I haven't yet, but I plan on, got some catch up to do. Okay, are you on VDI, Austin? No, so it's just Jenny, right? The rest of you guys. So, okay, so I'll just use the school's,
Yes, Diana, I'm still on VDI. I'm gonna purchase the subscription this week.
okay.
So, but yeah, but I'm still on VDI.
I wanted to know because my VDI is resisting. It's telling me that it will not work, and I've tried and tried and tried, so I'm gonna just close that and ignore them. I really don't like it when VDI doesn't want to hop in. So I'm just gonna quit that and forget about it, and we'll use our own files. The school's computer applications, so to say. All right, so everyone, last class, I'm opening up to get to the Padlet. Here we go. So I'm gonna go put the chat. I just put the chat in the Padlet in the chat, not the chat in the Padlet, so that you guys can go if you didn't yet go. My brain, my Mac. And I want to say there's some really good versions of the postcard. So let me share this screen. Here we go. And yeah, so I see a lot of versions. Yay, no one just decided to copy me because I wanted you guys to make your own versions. So we did a ton of work that was definitely don't miss the last recording, Austin. A lot happened with embedded and not embedded, and resolution and actual PPI and effective PPI, so stuff that matters. But some of you guys asked me some questions too. So anyway, these are the different postcards that people posted, and really good question here that Jill is asking. So here is, I'm looking for Jill, sorry, Dots. She says
Yeah.
Jill's Cafe. It's Jill's Cafe, but it's Dots question. Okay. Now here she put the screenshot that shows the trim zone and, you know, all of the working lines, and notice that she called it Morning Joe at Jill's Cafe, and she correctly made sure that the text hit the end of the line that's considered the safety line, the active area line. I was looking at a template from Costco, and over there they call it active area or something like that instead of safety area. Different companies have different names. It's basically where it's safe to put your stuff, right? And so she put the text there, but if you look at it in this context, it's not centered inside of the color. Here's the bleed, right? And so it's kind of hard to know how do you center it when you have all these lines. This should be your max position, but how do you know if it's centered? So then she went to this one, which is when you hit the W key, and she is showing the final version, right? And if you look at it, it's not really centered yet. And you could have noticed before, if you notice that there's more distance between this O and this one than between this and that. So her question was, how do you do centering, right? And what do you take into account? And well, here's the thing. We're going to hope, all you can do is hope that the postcard is going to be cut correctly, and that at most it might be like an 1/8 of an inch or a 1/16 of an inch that they make a mistake on the trim. So then, yeah, you got to center based on that cut line or the trim line and where it should be. So by putting her text at the edge of this line, then what probably should have happened is that in order to get it completely centered, then you need to make the font a tad smaller, or maybe scrunch it a tad more so that the M maybe starts over here, and then you'd have the same distance between here and here as that. But that would be to make it perfectly centered. Now, how many people would look at this and go, oh, it's not centered? You know, probably not many. Here, someone like me, I have to admit, my eye catches things that are not centered instantly and immediately. And the more you guys do this, the more it'll happen to you too. You'll notice. But the thing is that when you have a line that really goes from end to end, this is this one. Maybe you end up changing the edits. Maybe you go morning Joe at Jill's Cafe, because notice that the Jill's Cafe is equally uncentered, but there's more distance between here and there. And you can't tell as much as you can tell here, just because it's easier to tell when the difference, when the thing, you know, goes to end. So back to where she had her working lines, it's hard to tell here. I mean, you could have been able to tell that this is bigger here than that, but your eye is still seeing that, so it's hard to center. So you basically have to eyeball it. Do your best, and then remember to just find a workaround. Maybe this is not the shape for Morning Joe. Maybe you need to make it long and thin. And as I said, it says Morning Joe at Jill's Cafe, or you work with the tracking and the kerning to get Morning Joe to be even a tad less, like that much less. And then also put it into context that if they make a mistake, if the thing does get cut in, then guess what? If they do make a mistake, your thing does look centered. So woohoo, should we be happy about that? Maybe not, but you could also be that they go the other way. They make a mistake and go further, and then you have a much bigger space between this and that. So ideally, at the very least, you'll try to have your things well centered in case the mistake goes the wrong way, right? So if it goes in, that's fine. If it goes out, this would be much further off than this. So by trying to center it from the beginning and hoping to do a good job and that their mistake is only by a tiny little bit of an inch, you're safer than if they make a mistake in the other direction, if it's already got too much on that side. Did my answer make sense?
Yeah, so I guess I didn't know if there was a way to do it other than trying to eyeball it.
Eyeball it. Eyeball it. Now, here's the thing. You could make a box that's exactly the space. Sometimes when eyeballing doesn't, once you get good at this, eyeballing is the best way, right? Because there's words that even when they're perfectly centered, look a little bit off because maybe there's a lot of tiny like I's and L's and J's, and then suddenly you have O's, R's, and N's on the end. And so the whole word looks a bit unbalanced, and you have to still kind of force it a little bit off for it to look centered. So you still are basically eyeballing it, because perfectly centered doesn't mean it always looks centered. But that said, a way to trick it would have been to make a little box that's this big from here to here, right? Like just a little rectangle from here to here. And then the handles, you would have seen the center handle would have shown up here, and then you use that. I'm going to show you that in the InDesign itself to show what I mean. So when I really need to see something that's floating, what's its true center, I just fake it, fake a box that size, and then I use that to center the thing that otherwise wouldn't center. Because again, in this case, you can't align this to anything, because what do you align this text to? This isn't, you can't center it to this thing that's underneath, because aligning this Morning Joe to that thing, the center would end up somewhere over here. Does that make sense? And you can't center to just a guideline. So what you do is you end up kind of creating a fake little box to center it to. I think that's the only question. The rest of you just posted your work, which is awesome. Thank you. I see a lot of really good options and choices. Let me head over, let me stop my share and head over to the, actually, let me not stop my share. Let me continue, because Austin, if you want to pick up from where we are, because we're going to continue, right? And since you didn't watch the recording, you didn't create this file. So what I need you to do is I need you to go to the handouts, because in the digital design techniques download class files, I created a folder called Catch Up from Thursday. Double click on that one and then download these 3 files. And then this is the InDesign. And if you have all these files, you have to download all 3. When you open this one up, you'll update, I'll show you how, and then you'll be able to continue from where we are. Okay. Austin, you got that? Because, okay, so I'm gonna wait until you write in the chat, but I want to make sure that you got that because we're gonna keep building upon what we have. All right, that said, I can't teach you how we got here and all the stuff that I taught you, but you can start with the same file that we have. So give me a yes on the chat if you heard me and you know what to do. Basically go to the shared drives in your Google, so sign into SBCCC. And SBCC, go into the student folder shared drives. If you don't know how to do this, let me know, but I see you gave me a little yes. And then inside of the download class files is the catch-up files. You can just right click and download this folder and all three will come at the same time. But if you go into it, then you have to download each one individually. But the thing is, you will need all of them. They're not, we've adapted them. They're not the same ones as, actually the mosaic, no, that's not true. The mosaic is my plan B. As long as you have this one, the first one, the postcard, and this one, that's enough. The second one is I made 2 versions. So just get the PSD and the one that says Demicrat postcard. You don't need the one that says mosaic. All right. So guys, when you miss a class, please remember that I want to make sure that you eat that. If you don't have a chance to watch the recordings, I'll give you the file, but then because you need to be able to continue working with us. But sometimes then you'll be kind of like, how did we get here, right? And one of the advantages of being in online, let me turn off, I have it starting behind, is that you have the recordings. Okay. So everyone else was here or not here, or did you finish with me? If you didn't, go do the same thing I just told Austin, but I believe I'm looking over here and I think all of you guys were here. So maybe Jenny, I don't know that you finished this. So when you get home, if you didn't get all the way to the end, you can download this file. Okay, yeah, Dorothy?
I had a question. When I was trying to get everything centered, I made copies so I wouldn't wreck by one file. And so now I have about 4 different versions on InDesign and some in Bridge, and I can't seem to delete them.
Go ahead and share your screen and let me see what you're talking about. So you made, go ahead and share your screen meanwhile, but you said that you made different versions, so you kept doing a save as, is what you mean?
I think I saved, I don't know if I did save as or save.
Well, go ahead and share your Bridge, but if you share Bridge and if the issue is something I need to find somewhere else, then share your entire thing. Okay, so hold on, I need to move this over to the screen so I see it better. The other screen doesn't show it to me better. Okay, so this is what you mean by different versions.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, it does look like you did do different versions because saving each time doesn't give you different versions. If you just say file save, just
Yeah.
file save, right? That's all.
Yeah.
But if you do save as, each time you create a new one, and I can see that you have the original one, then Jill postcard, then Jill's Cafe postcard copy. You keep changing the name each time. There's one here that has a name that's longer than it. By changing your name each time, you got 2 here that have the same name.
I was going to try compare them, I guess, to see which one looked best on the center or something.
Yeah, so okay. So I see what you said, what you're saying, and yes, you could have more than one version because you made copy because you want to compare. Okay, that's good. But then you said, I don't know how to delete them. And let me tell you why. Because this place in InDesign is showing you your recent files. This is not the place where you would delete a file from. This is just showing you the files that you opened lately. If you want to delete anything, you need to handle them from Bridge or from your Finder window. So go back to Bridge. This is just showing you like a preview of the files so that you can open them. But here.
So in Bridge now I have all of these
Okay,
files.
so now that you're in Bridge And by the way, do you guys notice that in Bridge, in her case, you can see a big old link there on top of her little preview that goes to show that this document has linked files in it. From here, you can delete. If you want to delete one from here, you go up and right click and not on the name, because the name might just change your name. Go up to the icon
Okay.
right above. Don't do it yet, but go up so I can show you. Just go up to put your hover over. Yeah, right click. And then from here, you could go ahead and move it, copy it, duplicate it, do whatever it is you want, including, and I'm looking at,
I don't see delete.
I don't see delete either. Let me see. Move to, copy to, place, reveal in Finder, rename, export. Huh. It's not letting you delete from there. Mine says move to trash. Why doesn't yours say move to trash? Are you on a
Oh.
Mac or on a PC?
Oh, now move to.
Oh, move to, and then, but no, trash isn't showing up.
Oh,
You don't have your trash and your favorites. Does anyone else have that? Mine says right above move to. It's, oh, move to bin.
move
Is
to
that-
bin?
Go ahead and move to bin.
Yeah, that deletes it.
Are they calling the trash the bin now?
Yeah, because, okay, then that copy I can just delete because I didn't
Yeah,
need
you're
that.
in
I got
Adobe
the file.
2023 and I'm on Adobe 2022.
Yeah, move to bin and then it disappeared.
It's called move to bin. Interesting. All right. I'm curious, can you open your trash and see if that is there? It was a Jill's coffee or something like that. Look at, go into date.
Yeah.
No, go up to the top and click on date modified,
On the trash.
on the word date modified. Okay, go down and go to the dates that you see over there. It says December 13th, December.
Oh, yeah, right.
On the word date modified, right above, like at the very, right there. Yeah. Click on that.
It does move it to the trash.
And now I want to just go and see, go up to the top. This is 2021, go to the very top. Anything newest went up. Okay, scroll your way, scroll now, scroll so that we see the very newest thing on top. And Jill's Cafe postcard copy is right at the top, November 4th. Yeah, so it did move to the trash, which is just confirming what
Oh.
it just said, but now showing it to you. See the fourth choice down?
Okay, yeah.
Jill's Cafe. So the last, I just went to date modified because I knew you'd made it 2 days ago. So I knew it would pop up to the top.
Okay.
Anyway, so I guess Adobe is now
Yeah.
calling the trash the bin.
Yeah.
So I just wasn't recognizing it because in my version, it's still called move to trash. All right.
Yeah, and then I got this DNG folder and I didn't, that I could probably try to move that to, the
Double
bin.
click on that to see what's in it in case.
nothing's in it.
Okay, then yeah, delete it.
Yeah, okay. That helps me do, great. Thank you.
Okay, let me stop your share. All right, so guys, the place you handle your files from is Bridge. That's where you do a ton of different stuff that we're not even touching even a few percentages of its potential. But that said, it's equivalent to working in your file explorer if you're on a Mac, on a PC, or in your Finder if you're a Mac, as far as handling files, setting them up, copying them, duplicating them, doing stuff with them, et cetera, et cetera. That's the that's Bridge where you would do that. So in InDesign is just showing you what you worked on lately, but it doesn't let you handle it as a file enough to trash it. Okay. All right. So let me move you guys over here. I had to see Dorothy's stuff. I had to move her stuff over, and now I can share my screen again. All right. Any any questions before we start with new material? Is everyone good? All right. So what we did last class, for those of you who are at home, you should see the files in your computer folder, wherever you put them, probably the same place that you put it, your download files. But for people who are on VDI, so they're now, Soul is here and Jenny is here. Tess, are you on VDI? No, you had your own stuff. I'm trying to remember now. So just basically at this point, Jenny and Soul who are on VDI, you won't have them in the same folder. So it's a bit harder to compare. But in this case, I have them in the same folder, and which are the class files. And notice that up here, I have the original files. They were AA Beans, AA Cafe. Like I forcefully put these AA so that all these photos would be in the same spot. But then the ones that we created, I called because of the name of my cafe, Demi-Tasse. And so this is alphabetical order. So they show up here, Demi-Tasse postcard, Demi-Tasse postcard. So they're not in the same place. Over here, this is showing me that I have links. Okay. Like if I click on it, it'll show me over here that I have file properties, all that kind of stuff that I do. And if I scroll down, okay. Let me actually, if I scroll down, I've shown you before how to look at a single file and read all of its details, but on an InDesign file that says here that it's linked, if I scroll down, and I'm going to go down to this one, it says linked files, and it tells me which are the 4 files in this case that are linked and where to find them. You see that? So I can find through the Finder. I could even, like if I need to, I could grab from here and make it bigger and click on linked files, and I could see the whole thing. In case I'm not sure if I have these files, it can tell you where they are. Got it? So it shows me that there's 4 linked files. So this little icon over here, now I moved to bigger and smaller, there they are, is showing me that. As much as this one here is showing me that this is a file that was processed in RAW, there's different things that Bridge is telling us, but this in particular means that there's linked files, and it tells me which are the linked files. Now, remember that I created a file where I embedded the image, and then we trashed that one, so I didn't keep it, and we had embedded this little image at some point. If you embed it, it doesn't give you that info anymore. It just basically becomes part of the file. I don't have that sample saved to remind you, but just thought I'd let you know that this is there only because they are linked, because if I just give someone this file now and nothing else, they can't do anything with that. Like if they try to print it, but by not having all those linked files, they can't print it, or it'll look really low quality, because what we're seeing is low previews. Now, one of you guys shared, I think it was you, Peggy. I believe it was you, that when you shared your, let me see, Peggy, yeah. Now,
Yeah,
if I'm
My
going back here,
pixelated,
yeah, so
yeah,
her image is pixelated. I don't know if you can tell,
yeah,
but
but this one,
so her image is pixelated. The best you can see is if you go to the, this is in the Padlet, if you go to see the edges of this woman's arm, the edges of this little things, you look at it in the corners. It's a bit harder to see because it is, after all, in Padlet, but it's pixelated. Now, it's not that it's wrong or that the resolutions are wrong. She did everything right. I'm sure you did all of the resolution, actual or not. It's just your computer you need to change the settings of your InDesign. So let me, if anyone else
Okay.
has that, where I forget sometimes, because this is the, once you change it, it's always good. And then I forget that sometimes other people need to change it still. So
yeah, and I have a PC, which,
you have a PC. So when you go up to the top to go to, for Mac people, you would go to InDesign preferences, like at the top left. For PC people, you go to edit, and all the way at the bottom of edit, you would see the word preferences. I don't have it here because I'm on a Mac, but under
Yep.
edit down here, you would see
Yep.
the word preferences. I have it here under InDesign, about InDesign. And so let's head over to preferences. And then the where is it? I'm suddenly, I need to display performance. Down to display performance. So this, for everyone who is doing this, please do this as well. Some of you have already done it in other classes you've taken with me, but if you've not done it, then your display performance by default does not show high quality up here.
Okay.
So you need to go over here. It probably says typical, or it might even say fast. And if it says typical, then all of these files that are just linked, they just show at a lower resolution. Because in fact, when you're designing something like the Independent with 200 files, is my box of preferences sharing this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
When you are having many multiple images, it can really slow down your computer to have the full size image. What if you're working on a coffee table book where the images that you bring in are all high res, very highly pixelated files in your 300-page book? I mean, it would be crazy. So you put this under fast, then you just see kind of like gray boxes. If you put it under typical, you see them pixelated like yours was. If you only have a few things open and your computer speed is fine and life is good and you're not getting stopped, then change it to high quality here and here, and that helps. The other thing is this thing saying here that says Greek type below 7. Once again, if your computer is powerful and you know that you've got more than enough, oomph to make it work, then you might want to shift this to 0 and say 0 points instead of 7 points. Now I'm going to leave it to 7 just because it's the default, so that when it occurs, you'll see what happens for people who leave this at 7. Basically, any font, what this means, any font smaller than 7 points is going to show up as a box, just a box where text should be. It's not going to show the type. And again, it's to save the computer from having to resolve so many tiny little letters and so much work. So again, if you set this up, if you say use defaults, well, for some reason mine didn't switch. Oh, I don't know. I thought defaults would switch it back to high quality. I guess not. What if I put this at 0? And I say use defaults? Yeah, it went back to 7 points, but it doesn't switch these back. So they stay at high quality. Okay, now I'm going to say cancel because I didn't want anything to change. But if you did have this and you say, okay,
Yeah.
sometimes it immediately resolves itself. And other times you have to go in design and start again for it to adopt. the change. So if yours didn't do that, close InDesign and open it up again.
Okay, because mine did not resolve.
Yeah, so close
So-
InDesign, open up again, and
Alright.
then tell me how it's going. Was anyone else in
Okay.
that situation? I kind of forget about that. So, because I'm just looking at it, it's looking good. And yeah, when everything looks a bit jaggedy, that's because it needs the first time it needs to be set up. Okay. Oh, that's true. I had moved this down to show you that window. I have to resize, so it's the size of the bridge. Okay. I always try to, it's kind of, I'm accustomed to working with with huge files, but then for like the huge files, the window big on my screen, but whenever I share on Zoom and I know that people are kind of halfway using Zoom and a bunch of other stuff, I try to have a smaller window so it's easier for you guys to see it. All right. So back to the conversation or the question that Dot had about centering. So if this is the text that I have to center, right? It's kind of hard because of my text box that's holding it, right? Here's my Demi-Tasse. If I made my text box bigger, like these handles mean nothing. It doesn't mean that they are centered because as you can see, I have a lot of space behind it. So this, which should be the center point of this box, doesn't do it. If I actually try to make this a bit smaller so that it's right to the size of my text, this might be a little bit more realistic that it's in the center. You know what I mean? To help me automatically see the center of this word. But because one thing on the other, you might not have the opportunity to do that, then this is now, these handles are at the end of the T. So it's clearly not the same as if I make my box that size, and now these little white handles are at the beginning of the T. So that is more representative of the center point of my text. So, but if I move this out of the way and say, well, I want to center it in this black space here, right? Then the problem here is that this black space is, you know, visually, if I try to center it here, it's a little bit strange because notice that this box kind of continues into some blackness here. It so happens in how this one is set up that it continues into that. So even if I look at this right now and think it's correctly centered, it might visually not look correctly centered because of this. So who cares if it's centered in this black if it doesn't look centered because of that? You know what I'm trying to say? And it just so happened that it coincides that I noticed this when I was showing that. So you might still need to move it over beyond what this black box tells you because visually it needs to be pushed over more to look centered, even, you know what I'm trying to say? Even though it wasn't. Now, you might not have this situation where your black box hits a piece of black, but you need to keep an eye that centering, although you could technically align stuff sometimes, in this case, it doesn't work. Now, say that this wasn't there. Say that I had yellow or white stuff in there, right? So that this didn't matter. Then I'm still left with, well, do I center it to this black box? Well, look, when I hit the W, then this is the box that's underneath it. So if I were to try to align this text box with, and I'm going to hold shift, and this box, these two together, if I go over here to the line thing and try to center them, then it did perfectly center. Okay, I went to align and I went center, and it did a perfect job of centering it towards this black box. When I let go, look what happened. See how far this is and how near that is? Because it's taken into account that the black box goes all the way out to the bleed. So you can't use the align tools. That's what I was trying to say. So what I do when I really don't know where to put something like this, sometimes I will create a fake box. I'll go do a little rectangle and I'll just make a little fake box that extends. And so I just went and made a rectangle. Let me give it a fill, some obnoxious like magenta fill. And so this box is, and I made it precisely centered in the area that I want the actual thing to be centered on. Then I'll grab the thing that I want centered and make sure that it's as, you know, as close as it can be to the actual text. Notice it, look, this has an E at the end. If I make my box a bit smaller, my E is going to disappear and it's going to tell me, I can't do that. So just expand it a little bit again until it appears. That's as close as I can get it, which isn't exactly right. But then this line and this line, right, should be technically near enough. But how do you see both at the same time? Well, if you say click, shift, click, you can see them, but then the bounding box expands to the outside, so you don't see that. So what's the plan B? You basically have to put a guideline here to help you, okay? So you select this little bit that has the right centered line. These two handles are always centered. So if I make this box smaller, that's centered inside of this box. If I make it even smaller, that's the center point. So I make it the size I want. I know that's a center point, and I go to my rulers, always with the selection key open, and put my mouse on my ruler, and I click and drag, and I bring out a guideline. And I drop it right here in the center point of my pink box, right? So I've established a guideline. Now I go to my Demitas, and when I move this around, see how my Demitas has a center point? And you guys invent this on yours, like play around with it, because otherwise it won't work. Your text is different. Just find what I'm doing and make it work for your design. That's my guideline. This is my Demitas. That's the center point. Now I can grab it and make it match and move it over until the Demitas center line is matching the center. Does that make sense, you guys? I've used a different box's center line to establish what's the center of what I want, not the center of the bleed. And then I can center this to that. When I'm done, I can just grab that and drag it out again towards the rulers. I can actually, in Illustrator, you can delete it. I don't think in InDesign you can delete it. No, you can't. Oh yeah, you can. You can select it and delete it in InDesign too. And then you can grab that little black box that you used and get rid of it. Okay, so I grab that little box and hit the delete key. And now I know that if I hit W, that is perfectly centered amongst the black and the trim line, not the bleed line, which was what the tool aligned it to.
Where was the ruler you got?
What's that?
Where did you get the ruler again? For centering it?
So I put my mouse here in the middle of the rulers. So if you don't
okay.
see your rulers, you do Command or Control R. Like put your mouse in the ruler itself and click and drag, and out comes a guide that you can draw to use. And if it's temporary and you don't need it anymore, you can select it and hit delete, and then it goes away. Now, yeah. You could have also, I'm gonna Control or Command Z until my pink appears again. Here it is. You could have also, once you had this one, instead of putting guidelines and all of that, you could have asked these two to center each other, to align to each other. So I'm going to put this a little bit further away. I'm going to select my text, shift, select my pink box, which are clearly not centered. And then I could have used the align tools here to center them. But then I'd have to pick it up and put the pink back where it was, and now it's centered. So either way, a little bit of one, a little bit of another, you'd have to still play around to see if it's centered. And it's a little bit hard to see in this example. Maybe if this wasn't clear, give me a no. And then I can have us make a new file and just make a blank example of this where you don't have all these other things happening and that we all have the same thing. That way I can go ahead and show you. If you say, if I see a no, that means it was not clear. I'm happy to give a better example of it. Okay. So let me have us do a quick little file new. So we're just going to go to file. I don't know that you see my window. File new document. File new document. Okay. And then I'm going to go over here to see inches, and whatever the default is showing up is not a default. It's the size of the last thing that we created. And the last thing that we created was the postcard. So this is already telling you those same numbers. So go ahead and say okay to that, because we want just the same example. Okay. So now, if I'm going to control Option minus this a little bit. So here we have a document that got created with the same guidelines as the one that we had before. So let's grab a type tool. And remember that because today I was going to teach you a lot more about type. So in a way, this segues into today's class. So it was a good question, and that it guides me into what I was going to teach you anyway. But I'm going to add the aligning part of it. So once you have a new document and you want to write some type in InDesign, if I were to just click, nothing happens. Okay. In Illustrator and Photoshop, and you guys saw it in Photoshop that we got some text. Good. Remember that it was called lorem ipsum text. In InDesign, it doesn't, nothing happens. You need to click and drag to define a text box. So I'm going to click and drag right there and make a text box of some kind or another. So you have to click and drag and make yourself a box, because it's really called a frame, this text frame. Remember last week, we talked about how the frame is one part and the context is another. It's like the basket that holds the strawberries. Strawberries is where you want to eat, but the basket holds it. So the content could be a picture, it could be a logo, it could be a text, right? That frame is what holds it to carry it around. So when you create the frame, since it was a text box frame that I created, the cursor appears, and now I can just write something, and I'm going to say sample. I'm just writing the word sample. Now, when I wrote sample, this sample comes up in whatever font I last used, or since this is a new document, and the basic font that comes out with within InDesign. Had I made a new text box here in this document, right? I said I had clicked in here and created a new piece of text and started writing, it would have come out with the text that I used in this document. Does that make sense? I'm going to do Command Z to get rid of that. So just so you're clear. All right, so here we have a beginning text with a huge box. Now let's go ahead, and I still have my hand in, my tool is still the type tool. And so now if I want to change, so right now, at this point, my cursor is still like, if I'm still writing and I go nowhere else, sample, my cursor is there. If I want to go here and change the font size, right? And say I change it to something very different. So clearly I should see a difference. If I write 36 points, nothing happened to sample, but it changes from now on, right? It changes in the future. So the problem with this, with typing and making changes when you're in the type tool, is that it's very specific to whatever is selected. And if the cursor is there, nothing is selected, it only changes to whatever I write next. So say that I now wanted to change color of font. I'm going to go over here to the appearance, and in the fill, you see a big old T. I'll click on that, and I'm going to click on magenta, right? So I clearly chose magenta type. You can see over here, but nothing changed. Why? Because nothing was selected. So now it changes, okay? And I just, now it turns pink. So I just wrote, now it turns pink. First of all, you can see that nothing was pink before it, but can you see the words, it turns pink? Now, depending on what you guys wrote and how big you wrote it and what you did, you might still be seeing your font. But as soon as you make your font a little bit bigger, like I did, you'll notice very soon that you stop seeing your font. And I swear to you, I typed the words, now it turns pink. So where are those words? Okay, well, it's like you got 3 kilos of strawberries and you have a tiny little basket. You can't fit them. So all that text is not fitting inside of our text box. So the frames that hold our content, our photos, the frames that hold our text, the frames, the holders in InDesign are pretty powerful. They tell you whether you can see something or not. I'm going to go back in here for a second to show you. Remember that if I wanted to change the frame of this box, I could make it smaller, and then the rest of the coffee pot is gone, right? It just, I can't see it. Even though I know there's more. So this is the frame, and I'm not moving the content, I'm just moving the frame. The coffee pot has not moved. It's still exactly where it was. If I keep just my eye on that, you'll see it's never moving. And if I, until I switch it, that was not on purpose. If you flip it, it flips. And undo. I'm going to Command Z a few times to go back to the normal place. So the same thing with this frame. Now the problem is that when you're in the type tool, you can't grab the frame. You can only grab the type. So what I'm going to do now is I want to make my frame bigger, but with my type tool, I'm not grabbing the frame. So let's go and head back to the selection tool at the very top. And now I can grab the frame and first of all, move things around, but most importantly, where that text went. And in case I didn't write this and I didn't know it was supposed to say, it now turns pink. Maybe I thought sample, but it changes now was all the text I had. If you're working with, technical text or stuff that doesn't make sense to you, you might not notice that text is missing. This little plus sign here is the giveaway, okay? That little plus sign tells me there's offset text. Offset text means there's more text. So I'm gonna go to this corner and make my box bigger. And I should see that it does say, and now it turns pink. And in fact, I can make it, here, let me go. I can make it much wider sideways, and I can see that it keeps trying to redraw, or I can make it smaller again, and now it only fits a little bit, and there's my plus sign again. So then I make it long and wide, and now it all fits, okay? So basically, you make the frame hold the amount of material that you have or not. So if I push it from the bottom, if the side is big enough, but I push it in from the bottom, over here you still see it. But the moment I go one further in and past that bottom line of the text, boom, it doesn't work anymore. So even just move it over, ah, there it popped in, okay? So that's the thing, that's the power of the frame. Showing or not showing my stuff, but also changing my formatting, okay? But it changes, now it turns pink, or, but it changes, now it turns pink, right? So it's really powerful, this text box frame. So let's leave it in some place where you can see what you're seeing, and now go, okay, but how do I make all of the text be the same size and all of the text be pink? Well, two choices. The first choice that I don't recommend, but kind of makes the most sense, is go to your type tool, select everything. So you have to go all the way from the beginning to the end to select everything. Or when you have the same paragraph, you can triple click and it selects everything too. But now, notice this was pink, right? Yeah, magenta. I keep calling it pink, but it's really magenta because it's pure magenta. But if you select it all, the pink now looks green. And even if I can, yes, fix it all at the same time, I can go over to the colors and tell it, once again, make it pink. I'm doing it based on trust and knowledge that I'm asking for pink, so this should be pink, but it's not really pink. So it doesn't really help me if I'm not sure what color I want my font. This text selected works, but when the text is selected, it also inverts, it's like a color negative. It inverts the color. So it's not really pleasant to work in this mode. If I click away, did it work? Yeah, it turned pink, but I couldn't see it turning pink. So I couldn't tell if it looked good or not in the background. Yeah. So I'm going to undo Command Z so that I can see that it's back to being half colors. Now, everything I'm saying, hopefully you guys are doing as well. So like if you're trying to change half your text pink and it's not working, please tell me and I'll help you, okay? I don't want to leave people behind. So I want to make sure that everyone's has half text that's two different colors, and I want to make sure everyone has text that's two different font sizes or two different font types, whatever changes you make. So basically our text is a bit of a mess. If you're not here and you need help with that, let me know. Okay, so Dot, can I help you? Where did I?
No, my hand was up before. I
Oh,
just
that's from before.
took it
Got it.
down.
Okay, I just happened to look up. But that's what you have is a note. I always try to clear everyone's feedback before I go to the next question. That was my bad. Ah, my nose is tickling. Give me a second. Oh. All right. So, so what's the best way to make the whole thing change? Well, go and select your selection tool instead of your type tool. And now select your text box or select your text and it changes and it selects your whole text box. And this works for the font, right? So maybe I want to change all the font to one different font. I can make it all, I don't know, Apple Braille or Arial, or let me look something totally different. Chelsea Open Market. So see how it's making here, this one is so different that you can all see that the whole thing has changed. So everything now is one same font. In fact, It's still two different sizes, and I can go to this size down here. Since it's two different sizes, it gives me no size. It just says blank. But I go in here and choose one size for everything, and it all worked. Now, the problem is that I had uppercased the first word and then I didn't uppercase the rest, but it is all 12 points or 24 points right now. It is all the same amount of points. But how about fill? So I don't even see the big old T that I saw before. Remember there was a T before? This fill is referring to this text box. So if I click on it and actually fill it, it's the text box that's being filled. Does that make sense? So I'm going to go ahead and say none again because I don't want my text box to be filled. But over here, this thing is telling me apply to frame. I could click on this and say apply this color to my text, and then I can make all my text say cyan this time, or yellow or blue. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and leave it at magenta. So in this box, you can choose if you are filling the text itself or the text frame. Now the text frame is never a good thing to fill. Let me just fill it with blue or something like that. If you're trying to make a box behind the text, like if this were on purpose, let me go ahead and make my text the color that I can see better. Just black. If this is what I wanted, because I wanted to make a little box of text behind my text, this is not what I would do. Because the moment this changes or that changes, or the moment I make this bigger, it just, notice that my text on the left side was always going to be touching the edges, right? And then so when you really want a box to have color behind it, then you should make a box with color, kind of like we did here, and then put text on top of it and align it. And then they're both two independent things. You would never really want to fill the background of a text. So I'm going to go back to text frame, color here and appearance. Click on the fill, make sure that you're applying it to the frame, and go back to none. Okay, and then you're left with whatever font you were left with. Right now for me is black text and whatever name, Academy Engraved size font. And then I had made originally uppercase sample, lowercase the rest, and go ahead and give that a try. Even if you didn't, go click after the last sentence, go get your type tool, click in there again, and then keep writing, and then do another uppercase. Uppercase word. So now I want to show you something else. How are we doing? Does everyone have an uppercase word in your text? And do you have it empty colored, so to say, non-filled frame, and all your text is now one font, one size, one color, whichever you might have chosen? If all of that is good, then fine. If you're stuck at one of those points, let me know so that I can help you keep moving forward. I know, Jenny, you're still in your car. All right. So since I'm not getting any no's, I'm gonna continue. So now that I have all that text and upper and lower, I want more choices. And when I go over here, I'm looking for the uppercase, lowercase choices, and it's not here. So when something is not here, but there are more choices available, you get these three little dots. Here in the paragraph, I have three little dots. Okay, a lot of times over here in a line, I don't have three little dots, or in appearance, I don't have three little dots. So if you do have three little dots up there, there's some more. That means that there's more options within this little palette. They gave me the most important ones, but I can click on these three little dots and I get the rest of the possible choices. Okay. Now, PC people, does it look exactly the same for you, or are you getting a different? It looks like this, okay. Because sometimes these little things appear a little bit differently with PC or not. Okay, so now I have other choices available, right? That I can do. And remember that the character was working, that if I changed size, all the font changed and everything worked. So everything here, I didn't need to select it. Now notice that I can turn it all into upper, all caps down here, all turn into all caps. Or I turn this off again. But when you turn off all caps again, some of them still stay all caps and some don't. Is it, well, something's weird and wrong there. Nope, it's not weird and wrong. When you want something to be in all caps in InDesign, and you can, and this is the same in, by the way, Word or in any of these programs where you're with text for other programs, not just Adobe. If you forcefully put the caps lock on and you write something in uppercase, it stays forever in uppercase. You cannot change it being uppercase, lowercase. So I recommend always writing in upper lowercase, and then you can always decide here to go uppercase, or this is like small caps, which means uppercase, but with internal upper lower cases, which in this case, it doesn't work because I wrote sample in uppercase and uppercase. I'll turn that off again. So turning something on or off is clicking on it again and again. So if it stays on and it stays black, that means it's on. If I want to turn it off, I click on it again. So anyway, none of these are going to work, underline or not underline. They're going to apply to everything. If I say strike through, so those are the choices I have. But if I say that, and let me just open all these choices. So this is the one that people get confused by. How come I can't turn it back into lowercase? Because I typed it that way. So if you really want this to not be a huge sample, you need to retype it. And if you go upper lowercase, like regular writing would have been like that, now I can turn everything into uppercase and back into lowercase and into upper lower small caps, which means that the first letter is uppercase, but the bigger, and the rest is uppercase, smaller. So it's like, that's what small caps means. It's all uppercase, but the one that should be uppercase has the first letter up. Okay. These are superscript or subscript, which is like when you have to only, if you have to do like H2O or something like that, or no, not H2O. If I want to write the word seventh, right? I'll grab the TH and I'll make the TH superscript. Okay, so that I can give it that little bit. Then if I keep writing, it's going to stay in superscript, right? So then you need to come and turn that off for the rest of the text. Okay, so usually you would write seventh and then you would go back and just change those two. Anyway, and then lower script would be if you want some of these to go down. Okay, so for some reason you need that. Okay, I'm going to get rid of those because I don't want to keep those in the memory. But anyway, so basically, if you select stuff, you can change it individually. So say if I wanted to make only the word turns a different fonts and size, the only solution I have for that then when it comes to this box is to truly sub-select it like that, and then it works. Okay. Other than that, for anything font related, just get, for this box, the whole thing will change if you use it. The whole thing will change, everything with it underlined or not. Okay, so you need to learn which one works for which, but the colors doesn't. For the colors, if you select with colors, you won't see the color choice you're making. So it's the worst choice to make, because how do I know what that blue, I click on blue and oh, behold, it turned yellow. Can I tell if it works with the background? If it's going to be red or not, I can't tell. So I don't change colors that way. I only change text colors by selecting my frame and then choosing text. And now when I say blue, I go, oh, I can see what blue looks like. I can see what pink looks like. Okay, so, but just don't forget here what you're changing. Okay, now I haven't yet created new colors. We did that yesterday. Or when I say yesterday, I meant last class, last week. We did that. Some of you guys, who's in my Illustrator class? Ed and Monica and Tess. So we played around on making new colors in Illustrator. It's a little bit different here in InDesign. But say that I don't want one of these. So these colors that I have here, I don't even have all the nice, neat. Illustrator gives you a bunch more basic colors to even start with. Not InDesign. It doesn't. But before I go into colors, I want to go back here. And there's a lot more to learn about text, but that was just the basic handling of the text box that I wanted to teach you. And within that came the conversation about how to center it, which was the original beginning reason that I had you open this box, right? So if I try to center this text right now in this whole postcard, how would you center it in the postcard? What would your first instincts be? And I'm not saying center it as in, by the way, as in paragraph type of centering, which is this choice. So that's one type of centering. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying more, how does this look centered within this box? So my first thing I would do, especially with all these lines up and wrong, I would hit the W. Remember a good old W? It eliminates all the other noise and it let me see just the design. And now I go, oh, it's not centered at all, right? I mean, it might look good or bad. That's not the question. But if the point was to center it, it's not centered, right? So now I go, okay, hit the W again, because I need to work with, I can work with it in this mode, by the way, but be careful. You should only work in this mode if you for sure are not having, are never going to have bleed be part of the issue, because it's never going to have color in the background. Then you can keep working in this mode. But it restricts you to see if things are out of bounds or not. So I recommend you learn to work in the work mode where you see the guides and everything, and then to just flip on the W on and off. It's much quicker to see if you're in the right path. Okay, so here have a piece of text. We all wrote whatever we wrote. So our text is pretty nonsensical right now. Some of it have it big, some of it have it small. So whatever I have, how do I then center it? Okay, so if you made it fat, if you made it small, if you made it big, whatever it is that you made, you have to center this text. Okay, so this is what I meant about those little handles that I said showed you that this was the center of this one box. And then if I want to center it in here into this, sorry, I hate this, keeps doing that. If I want to center it into the whole postcard, that would be one thing, because clearly I can center from edge to edge. But what if, and this is what was happening in the other example, let's all make a box that goes from this bleed, right, to that bleed. And so again, I'm gonna get rid of that and show you. I'm making a rectangle, not a frame. This gives me frames to hold photos, frames to hold text. That's a frame. This is an actual rectangular box. If I click and hold, I can make an ellipse or a polygon. These are actual shapes that I can fill with color or with other stuff, but this is a frame. And when I first make it, this is a rectangle. When I first make this rectangle, it'll show up with no fill and a black stroke. It's the default setting. I'm going to fill it. Let's fill it with black. Okay, just so it's very obvious and very visible. So now I have this text. Let's make it a little bit wider. This text has to appear centered on this box. Okay, now this text right now, I can't even see it, right? So remember what we did last few weeks. We've been using the what? How do I go and move this around so I can see my text? Where do I go?
Selection tool.
I'm in the selection tool, so I'm selecting it, but notice that I'm not reading the first part of it. Why? Because it's where?
Because it's on the back,
It's tucked under, right?
so you have to bring it on
Lower
the front.
layer.
to be
Oh,
able to
yeah,
see.
the layer thing, the layer.
Yeah, so I need to go find my layers. Now, I already put my layers handy and visible. And if you followed the class, you probably did too. But if you forget where they are, say that you're looking and looking and you're like, I don't see my layers. If you don't see something, always, always, always the place in all of these Adobe programs. If you don't see them, you can go up to the window word at the very top and look for that thing. So I'm going to say, I'm looking for my layers and I can't find them. So I went up there and, oh, there they came. And that's when I remember, oh yeah, I put them right there at the very top is where I put my layers. Now, if you never did put them there and your layers box appeared kind of loose and floating around, means that you didn't put it there, then this is the time to put it there. Grab this box from the top and drag it until you see that little area turn blue. And now we can turn layers on and off. And this might have been done when you weren't in class or something. The layers are handy. We want to see them. So I've put them in here. And now what I see that my text is below my box. So literally if it's down, it's lower than whatever's on top. So the sample in the rectangle is covering it. So I can grab the rectangle and move it down, or I can move the text up, whichever way, grab and drag. And now I have flipped the order. So at least now my text is on top. Okay. Now, if you made a black box and you have black text, you won't see your text. So you need to make sure that you change your color. So I'm going to go ahead and select my text and go over to appearance and make sure that your text is a color that shows up on black. I think that I'm going to go ahead and go with, since I'm limited, because there's very few colors at the beginning that I can choose from, I'm just going to go with, I think yellow is going to read well. Blah. You know what, let me go with white. Now, there's a difference here between seeing paper or none. So be careful because it looks white and there's nothing here that says white. Okay, there's just paper or none. Now none goes transparent. You don't want that. Paper in this case would be white. Why? Because we have white paper. If you say paper, it might be an issue depending on other paper you put in, but for now, without us having created other stuff, that would be as good as we're going to get for white. But notice if I hover over it, okay, that it says CMYK 0000. So it's putting no color in there. Anyway, we'll talk about that a little bit later, but now I just wanted to see my text well. So here I have my text. Here I have my box. I'm going to first try to eyeball centering it. I'm going to make the font a little bit smaller because it's, let me go with 18 points or 24 points. So if I want to center this, eyeballing it, there's so many lines. It's kind of hard. So my first instinct is to hit the W. And then I go, oh, well, hitting the W is not that hard to center it. And I'm saying center it column wise to the sides. I'm not even thinking top to bottom. I'm just trying to center it side to side. And still a matter of kind of eyeballing it because as you can see, I have some words that don't. And I click away. And I click away. No, and I click here away. And yeah, I'm thinking it's okay, but I can't really tell if it's centered. This is still bigger than that. So I keep going and I can do this for 20 hours and decide that it might be right or not right. Okay. Because sometimes it's hard to tell. So now comes, I'm going to hit. If I say to the computer, okay, select this, shift, and this. So remember right now what I'm seeing is this. I wanted to see it if it was centering. You can't see if it's centering in this mode. This is the working mode. You need to go into preview mode. And so presentation mode, this is called, because you're presenting it like to a client. You would never show a client this. They wouldn't even know what they're looking at. You want to have it someone who sees the final piece as presentation mode. So I'm like, oh, I'm not sure if it's centered. I can't tell. Well, if you align, click, shift, click, these two, technically you would think, and I'm going to head over here under align, I could just center them. Yeah. Remember, this won't center the text in paragraph formatting. It'll center two boxes. The frame will center the box to the black box. This is the one that I said wasn't going to work. I mean, did it? Does it look centered right now?
No, because you haven't decided under which box is gonna get align the text.
I did.
Oh.
I chose this and this. So the black box and this,
There we
and I
go.
told it to align. But the problem is that this black box includes the bleed. So it is perfectly centered to the black box. If you just, that box is as big as that box, but that included the bleed. And that's why the good old aligning, which works for so many things, doesn't work when the bleed is involved. Okay. So this is why I said you need to kind of fake it. In this case, if what I wanted is to not eyeball it, but make sure that this box is completely centered to this box, then this is where I would go grab a rectangle, draw a little box. Let me fill it with a different color. Right? So now this is clearly centered to that box because I drew it centered. And if it's not, if you drew it somewhere else, bring it back and resize it so that it's actually in the right spot. This is centered. And this is the text you want to center it to. Make sure that you don't have it like out of bounds. Center this text to that. Yeah. So now you can select this text, shift, select this text, and center these to each other. Who's in the align? Now you know for sure that these two are aligned. And if you look, the sample it, these two lines do look perfectly centered. Now I can get rid of this little box. And now I didn't have to eyeball it, but I do know that it's centered. Now, as I said, with text, it's still kind of hard to tell because see how this is shorter and shorter. So all you can do is eyeball it. And if you're not sure about the eyeballing, and until you get that feeling for yourself that it's centered, then you can fake it by creating another object to help you center it too. Okay. Like if you're not sure what of this is the center of it, you can do that. Or plan B, what I had said before was you just draw a line, a guideline to that, right? And then when you draw a guide, then you grab this box and you pull it around until its middle boxes align to that guide. And now you know, once again, that you have these two together, right? And now, so both ways work, either with guides or with fake boxes. Guides is faster if you know how to use guides until you get comfy with guides. A fake box that I always make some obnoxious color just in case I ever forget it, right? So I make sure to be a color that I would never in my life leave because you might forget it. A box that's just white sitting there or something like that. And then you know to get rid of it. Did this work, you guys? You're all pretty comfy with it ish. Peggy's like, meh, kind of. So what are the questions? Because usually the questions are going to clarify something else that's maybe missing.
Well,
Alright.
I got kind of behind on, I got my typing, but I couldn't, you know how you change the shape? It won't change. It's in a long rectangle and I can't get it to change.
Okay, so hold down with your selection tool, hold your box, and then use these handles to change. So now since it's white text, you can't see it. So let me give it pink so you can see it. So when you move the handles of this frame, you get to change the text box. You see that? Is that working now?
Yeah, but I'm losing text.
Yeah, so when you lose it because it's too small, you should see that little plus sign there. See that?
Right.
So then that means you just need to make it bigger. So I can make it bigger downwards. And then it appears. If that little box is empty, you're seeing all your text.
Yeah, but
If you hide some text and it has a plus sign, I'm hiding some text.
my text now, my two words are way apart.
Oh, you must have justified them. Did you go here to paragraph and center it?
No, I didn't do anything with it.
Okay, so that's not good. Okay, so then share your screen so I can see what's happening.
Sure.
Usually I'll try one or two options that are the most logical ones. And if that doesn't work, then I'll usually say share your screen. Okay. So sample, but it changes uppercase pink. So what you have going on here, when you set apart, you mean up and down. Okay. Well,
Right.
first of all, there's like no space between sample and but, for example. So that treats it as one word. So you might want to put your type tool in there and put a little space because it's harder for font to reset if it thinks it's one long word. So click in there and give it a space. And then same with changes uppercase.
Oh, okay.
Thinks it's one word, so it's harder for it to. Okay, now that said, you did change a setting here that I haven't taught yet, which is I have not taught the distance between lines. So go get your type tool, your selection tool again, your selection tool, and then over on the far right, where you have your character choices. Yeah, where it says
Mhm.
Minion Pro type font size. Yeah, that one. That's exact. No, one under. You were just touching it. Yeah,
This?
that one. Click on that. You have nothing there because at some point that must have changed differently for one from the other. So go and click on auto.
Oh, okay. I think I changed that to like 36 to increase the font or something. And I think
Yeah,
that's
so
what
the
did it.
font size moves is the one to the left. Okay, so go to the one right to the left. of that.
Yeah, that I just changed the
font
wrong
size.
thing. Yeah, right.
And then what you did is you changed the spacing between lines, and that's why your line was way down there.
I changed that instead.
Yeah, so that was it. So now
Okay.
change now it says 12 points on the left side, and then on the right side, which is what handles the spacing between lines.
Mhm.
Or in this case, the technical term is leading, because in
Right.
the past they would put little strips of lead. Okay. Then go down now to leading and make to fonts and make it 30 points fonts. No, the left side is yeah. So
30
go
points.
down. Now it says 12 points there, and the leading is like 1244. Now you chose 10 points, and if you notice that now your leading is like 30 something. I don't know. I
I
can't read
changed
it.
30 points. I went to 30 points.
Okay, so now what's your leading, like 30? So on the right side, your leading turned to what?
36.
36-ish, right? Because it's not, you set it on auto. So it's leading is always a little bit bigger than your font size. Now go down to like 8 points on your font. And you'll see that on the right side, your leading also changed to, I can't read it. You read it.
9.6.
9.6. See, it's always like a couple of points, 2 to 3 proportionally. Your leading's going to be bigger than your font size if it's set to auto, right? It'll
Now
always
if I go up and change these, they'll do that thing, right?
go ahead and change it to a font that's a bit bigger. Go to like 18 or 20 or something like that. But yeah, now it'll start responding. It was just in a weird setting. Yeah,
Okay.
so now go and yeah, and there we go. So now you can move that. Now you can
Move that over.
and put it on top. Yeah, click from the middle and put it on top. Yep. And then that's, you can
And
still
then I make my box and,
make your box and center it. And all that kind of stuff.
okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome. So yeah, guys, if you see anything weird happening in your text that is like, no, it's just not responding. Yes, it might be a mistake that you made, but it's not a mistake. Something you click, but you can't figure your way out of it. Please let me know, because otherwise you can't keep learning, right? And it took me a minute to look at it and go, oh, that's just the letting, right? So just remember, sharing your screen is usually the best way to have me help you, right? So cool.
Thank you.
No, you're welcome. Okay, so, share my screen. Any other questions before I share mine? No, all good? Okay, let me share my screen. All right, so now, cool. So now I have some how do you call it? Some text in here that I wrote, so to say. Let's go with some text that I didn't write. So we're going to import, we're going to place some text. Now let's head over to, how did we place an image? Remember in the photos here, we just went to place and we dropped in some photos from a file, right? Remember that we still need to make the other side, the back side of the postcard, but we're playing around with text a bit to learn all the text stuff before we can make the postcard, and the back is going to have some text beyond just a headline. So learning a bit more about that. So here we go. If you all did the same design I have, you have a bit of a white spot here. What if we drop some text into here? But it's not text that I'm going to write this time, but it's text that somebody gave me. Maybe my client gave me the text from my website or from my brochure or from my postcard or something like that. And so we have it in a file. So let's go up to File, Place again. And in the same place that we have all our files, you'll notice that we have a docx, which is the text, and a docx is a Word document. But it doesn't matter even if you don't use Word. InDesign does read Word text. And it could have come in as, there's a couple different formats. It could be RTF, it could have been a couple different things. But anyway, it came in as a Word document. And here's the text that I'm going to bring in. And you're going to say, okay, open. Now, do you see my warning box here? Is it sharing itself? The missing fonts? Okay. So the document users uses fonts that are currently unavailable on your computer. Closing the box will substitute. Now, if you didn't get this message, it's because you actually own this font. Okay. But I want to see, give me yes or no if you got this message. If you didn't get this message, tell me no. If you got the message, tell me yes. And again, how did I get here? I went in to bring in the AA Cafe text. Okay, so half of you got the message and half of you did not get the message. That's fine. It's just whether it's installed on your computer or not. So hopefully, I was hoping no one got the message so that I could have you guys all have to bring it in. But so right now it can substitute it with a default font. Oh, it says Adobe Fonts couldn't find any matching fonts. That's not too good, because if Adobe Fonts can't find any matching fonts, then going to you might have a find or something like that where you would go up to Adobe Font. We went here to find the Demitas or whatever other fonts, but it's already telling me that it won't find it. So I could either let it substitute with the default font, right? Or I could go and replace the font. I'm going to go ahead and say, you know what, I'll just, if it's not there, I'll replace it on my own. I can just say skip. If I go to replace fonts right now, I'll have to go and deal with it now. So for now, I'll just say skip, because I want to show you what happens when you do say skip, what happens to that font. So here I have, instead of a photo in my hands, I have text. Remember, this is how it came in. It came as a tiny little photo before, but what I'm dropping in is text. Now, if I just click, it'll give me a shape. If I click and drag, I will make my own shape. right? So just like we did before, if I click and drag, I will be creating the place I want the text to be in. But first, to learn, we're just gonna simply click. And when you simply click, the font came in, filling your margins. So let me go over here to the layers for a second and turn the eyeball off with my rectangle and of my sample text, just so that you can see what the computer does on its own. It knows, because these were the margins that we set, it knows to find your margins and to go as big as your margins. That's when you click and let go. It knows not to write text outside of the margins. So that's pretty intelligent, right? On the other hand, how come my text popped up with a pink background? I'm going to do this. And if you're in this mode, in the presentation mode, it's like, what pink background are you talking about? It's looking fine to me. Make sure to be in this mode where you see all your guidelines and you'll see a pink background. Who will see a pink background? People who did not have the font that was in that document. This is how InDesign tells you, hey, something's really wrong with this font. You know how before we had link with a warning sign, exclamation point, all the stuff that we saw last week? This is your document saying, well, I am showing you the text, but it is not in the font that was requested. Now, for the most part, you don't want anyone to have formatted the Word document. Ideally, they will not have given you design. Rarely does anyone know Word well enough to have created font styles and stuff like that that can then like integrate and carry over into InDesign. At best, if you have someone who's really good at works with you and knows InDesign, you can format Word in order to make it look good in InDesign. For the most part, what you want is to start with a clean slate and format it all yourself in InDesign. So in this case, how many of you got the pink font? Did you give me your yeses or nos if you got the pink font? Okay, anyone who got the pink font did not have the right text, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and click on my type tool. Sorry, select my box, which I didn't have it selected. And then over here, it's giving me the name Calibri and it's putting it between parentheses. You see that? Parentheses, like brackets, not parentheses, but brackets. So what it's telling me is, okay, I'm showing you something here, but it's not I don't have it. I don't own this font. This font is not here. Notice also something I didn't point out last week. There's this thing down here that says one error. So I didn't point it to you in this document, but when we were changing things in this one here that we had added or taken away the text, whenever you see a warning, all those missing, all those things that we showed you here in the links where it was like warning, warning, or missing, missing, at that point, you also here had a red thing that said errors. Now, in this case, there's no errors, so it's nice and green, but here we just created something that's not working, so it's warning me there's an error. So those are all warnings. There's like the warning signs, the triangles, the missing, the question marks, or in this case, the one error down there and the pink at the bottom. It's all telling me something is not right. Okay, so if I look at my fonts, character Calibri, it's between hard brackets. That's another sign telling me you don't have this font. So there's many of these things that once you begin to understand what they are, that's telling you that something's wrong. Let's go ahead and for now choose something else. And anything else that I choose, whatever it might be, as long as I have it here in my computer. So I'm going to go to, I don't know, Arial. Click on Arial. See how the hard brackets disappeared, the error disappeared, and my font stopped being pink. That means I gave it a font that my computer can recognize. Plan B, if you really need the font that it came in, because it's the font your client wants you to use, you either need to go purchase it, buy it, you need to have your client give you the license for the font, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a whole nother story. But in this case, we can just change it to a font that works, right? So anyway, that's the That's how you fix your font, so to say. We can still go choose another font if I want another font, but you give it a font that isn't bracketed, that there's no errors there. At least you know that if nothing else, this will print correctly. That said, how come it dropped in this size and shape that it did is because I just simply single clicked. I'm gonna delete this text again, and I'm gonna place it one more time and remind you what I mean by that. I clicked on this text, I selected it, I said open, and I get the same message, so I'm gonna say skip, and I just simply, in the middle of wherever, I just clicked, boom. The font set itself within these borders. Now, everyone delete that font, but be careful. Delete the font box. Don't be inside of text and try to delete text, because then you'll delete some or all. Even if you delete all the text, you still have left that box there, because the holder, it's like you ate all the strawberries and you left the basket. So delete everything. And now let's go bring in that text one more time. But this time we're going to tell it where to go.
How do you delete it? Do you just,
Hit the box and hit your delete key, or if you're on a PC, the backspace
Okay.
key. Yeah. So place, file, place, bring it one last time in. This time, by the way, for those of us who don't have the font, I'm just going to go to replace fonts. Okay, let's just try this one, because I still don't have Calibri Regular. So I'm going to hit replace fonts, and it's going to tell me over here, Calibri, what's missing? There's one font missing. Which one? Calibri Regular. Now you recognize this is what we had last week because of missing documents, not missing photos. It had that little question mark. Now, oh, and by the way, I never checked in again with Austin. When you open the class files that I made, you probably had your pictures are coming in with those kind of things that I need to show you how to fix. Anyway, and so now we can replace with. So instead of doing it later, in opening the document, I can say, okay, I don't have Calibri Reg, what should I replace it with? Oh, well, maybe with Minion or with whatever. I'm going to say, okay, sure. Replace it with Minion, and I'll just say done. So this time I shouldn't get the pink because it's pre-replaced. And I'm going to go ahead and tell it to drop itself by clicking and dragging. And I'm going to tell it to fit itself inside of this narrow box. Oh, guess maybe I didn't say okay because I was teaching you. I should have clicked on replace. Okay. I forgot that I had turned these two off. There we go. Go to layers. But now it dropped itself inside of the box that I made. Okay. I'm going to hit the undo or the delete again and drop it in one more time because I didn't I didn't replace the font, and I wanted to show you how to do that. So I'm going to say, okay, again, replace fonts and replace with Minion Pro. Why didn't it replace? Because I told it, yeah. Okay, oh, because I had two fonts, that's why. So I had to select which one I wanted to change. Because this one came in, it didn't need it. So I selected the one that I replaced. And now I'll go, okay, replace with Minion Pro. And the reason it says change all, because I might have it in 2 or 3 different places or something like that. I just want to make sure that all of it changes. So I'll say change all. And now I can say done. And now I can click and drag. And now my font comes in without needing all that pink. See, it came in as Minion Pro. But if I look at this plus sign, what does this plus sign mean?
That there is more text.
Yep.
You have to
offset
expand
text.
the,
There's more text. Okay. So I won't be able to see what that text is until I make that bigger and bigger and bigger until maybe I'm done. There it is that I saw it. But what if I have 10 pages of text, right? So I need to have an idea. So for now, let's assume but I don't know how much, I knew because of what I just did that I have only a bit more text that stretching would work. But what if I had 10 pages or 2 pages or 5 pages? I don't know. So this plus sign just tells me there's more text, and I'll tell you now in a minute how to handle more of that. But for now, did this work? Was everyone who was getting pink font was able to bring in their text pre-replaced to start with? I'm gonna clear your answers because I've got some.
My text is too big I'm still getting the plus sign.
Yeah, that's fine. I've got the plus sign too. Notice something also. Oh, another good thing about using this instead of the type tool, that if I were to select this text to make it smaller, right? Watch, if I select what I see, right? And try to make it really tiny, right? So that it could all fit, then this got smaller, but not the stuff that was there because I selected only what I could see. And again, if I have 2 pages of text, this wouldn't have helped. I'm going to say Option or Command Z to undo that. If instead of that, I had selected just my box with my selection tool and I changed this to 8 points, everything gets smaller, including all the stuff that was hiding before. Does that make sense? Because I'm encompassing all the text that's in that box, including what I can't see. If I make it 36 points now, everything got bigger, including what I can't see. All right, so that's important to know. So I'm gonna, when I manipulate it from here, all that stuff is getting changed, including what's hiding. So yes, we should be not seeing some stuff. We should still be having a little plus sign. I'll tell you a little bit later what to do with that. I just want to show you the difference between dropping it at the size you need it versus dropping it with a click, that it just expands to fit itself. Okay. Now, when you have text, you probably already read it. You know, if you have a page or 10 pages, right? You probably wouldn't be completely unclear. But say you don't know, then yeah, the only solution is to be able to see all the text. We're gonna work with multiple or a lot of text later. For now, let's go ahead and say that what we need to do now is begin to work on the backside of the other postcard. So let's save this if you want as a file to keep the stuff that we did, if you want to see all your back and forth. So let's call this one text samples. Text samples. And in this, it could be the cafe. Go ahead and write it AA underscore, because that's how I had labeled the rest of the stuff, just so that it hangs out in the same place as the others. You had AA cafe text, AA cafe owner, just so that it hangs out in the similar place if you want to do that. If not, doesn't matter. But the demi task text samples, or whatever it is that you want to call it, and then save, just so that doesn't disappear. And then we're gonna spend quite a bit more time on text and stuff. There's quite a bit more to teach you about it, but I also want to show you the differences in the other programs. I'm always trying to parallel it to what other programs do with text, because it's relatively similar, but in a little bit different, but not too different. Okay, so let's take a break. Is it time? Yeah, my alarm, I think, for a break already came in. Let me, sometimes, I'm sure my alarms aren't mistaken. It is, yeah, class started at 1. Yeah, it is break time. Okay, so let's take a break. It's almost, it's a bit past 2:45. So break until 3:02 p.m. Does that work? I think so. From my clock on the wall, it works. All right, guys, see you in 15 minutes. Oh, for anyone who's still around and hearing me, go ahead and do some screenshots of this whole text thing so that you can post it later into the Padlet. All right. Sorry, guys. I forget when I'm in the school that it takes a few minutes. It's a big place and it takes a few minutes to get back in time. All right. Whew, I'm so cold. I was just out there in the real world. It's just that in the classroom, it's not so cold. And so I went out with the same clothes and came back and then gotta run in space, run in my spot. Okay. So, let me put again here a link to the Padlet. I remembered at the last minute and people had already left. And I said, go ahead and post screenshots of what we did today into the Padlet. All right. Share my screen again. And here we go. All right, so now we have some text. We have a postcard way over here that if we hold down, I think I was working on the other design in the end. This was the first design, but anyway, I'll keep going with this one. I think I had made a better design as my second option, but never mind, I'll work with this one. What we haven't done yet is, oh, I think I had to move this somehow. I think so. Okay, so I think this was there. Okay, so here's the thing. We haven't yet talked about the second page, right? So over here where we see the layers and the links, if you have the old way of seeing the files, you would have the pages right there. Now the pages are up here again. The properties panel became such an important panel that anything that I want to see a lot, when it's hiding behind the properties panel, I find that it's not handy. So although here's where it comes, I kind of want to see my pages all the time when I'm making a multi-page document. So I'm going to grab this icon here and I'm going to put it also up here. I don't need it open all the time. Like I do need the properties panel open all the time, but I need it handy enough that I want to see both at the same time. So I'm going to grab the pages and just drag it over and I'm going to put it at the top actually. I'm going to grab this little thing and so see where I grabbed it from the name, the word pages, and I'm going to move this mouse until it pops up a time. If you want to put it in the bottom here, that's fine. I'm going to put it at the very top because I know that in the way that I use things, I'm accustomed to having it there. So I don't care where you have it, but I'm going to put my pages there, my layers there, my links there. These three I need constantly, but I don't need them open available the entire time. So this is a good solution to have them handy, but not always in front of me, okay? And then I have the properties, which do need to stay open all the time available. So I like this combination. Now, if you have a very small computer with less space, you might want to keep it stashed in there like it was before, and then just switch back and forth to them. But I like this. All right, so that's just me. So now let's go to pages and notice that we have 2 pages. And if I can move to the second page, up until now, I think I had shown you how to move by holding down your space bar and moving down or just scrolling down. But also once you see your pages, you could actually just double click here on A2 and click here on A1. I'm gonna make it a little bit smaller, A2 or A1, and that switches me to the different page. So we're not still using all the stuff that's up here, but let me just add something, which I'm not going to teach you what this is up here, but I do want to say something. Anyone who has used InDesign before and already knows these used to be, since the beginning of time, the master pages. Just so you know, when you updated to the new version of InDesign 2022, so like a year ago now, and unless maybe that I said, they decided this was master pages as in master slave, yada, yada, yada. they've shifted that for the wording to parent, child. Parent, child is a way that the whole internet uses for nested stuff. So like the parent and then the child, and you know, that relationship is, it's nested inside of the parent and stuff. It's a typical of web building of a lot of stuff. And I guess there's been enough issues with the word master and slave so that now, if I'm not going to teach what that is today, if you used to use this and know that these were known as master pages, if you read anything that now refers to parent pages, it refers to the same thing as in the past, master pages. But if you go to any tutorial that talks about master pages, you won't find that word now. It's called parent. Just wanted to point that out because, but we're not going to use master pages right now anyway, or in this case, I need to start giving custom same parent pages, but I just wanted to show you for those of you who have used them in the past. Anyway, let's head over to page 2. And in here in the page 2, we have to do the backside of the postcard. Now, remember the first day I taught you how to research. You have to have a certain amount of space and a certain amount of size in the back of the postcard dedicated to the address and the stamps and stuff like that. I don't want to spend time right now doing that research again. So I'm just gonna eyeball it to what we kind of know a postcard is about, half of it, but there is a specific number, there's a specific size. And if we did this right, I'd have it in front of us. And I thought I had put it in our handouts, but when I went to our handouts, I couldn't find it. I only found in the handouts the bleed and that. So maybe I'm looking at it, maybe it had been updated, or for some reason it's not there. So my memory, I had it here. I did the research once. So anyway, I'll let you guys research it in the past, but I do know that for sure you need to have the address a certain size and the postage stamp is a certain size. So let's go ahead and look how we incorporate things that were not made outside, because up until now, we've incorporated, let me go back, see, I can go to page 1 and page 2 like this, or I can go down here at the very bottom of my page and see we're seeing page 2. I could also go left, page 1, right, page 2, or I could click on this thing and jump to page 1. So there's different ways of navigating amongst the pages, right? Now, imagine how nice, how easy it is to go page 1, page 2, just by scrolling down. It's like, why bother? But what if you're going from page 1 to page 10 or page 1 to page 80? You don't want to be scrolling through 80 things. So then over here, it's much easier to jump from page 1 to page 80. Now, if it's 1 to 80, if that truly is what you're scrolling under, then the easiest thing would be to click in here, write the word 80 and hit return. Boom, and you'd get to page 80. Does that make sense? So depending on how many pages you're using, you definitely want to use a different tool. I find that anything from 20 to 30 pages, I like to go in here, scroll up and down and just double click. That's what I like to use, but this works just as well. Anyway, but between 1 and 2, we can go any way we want. So I'm in page 2. And I know that about somewhere in the middle, I'm going to need to put, let me get I'm gonna hit the W to get all my working, but somewhere in the middle, I'm gonna have some kind of a line here to divide between what I'm gonna write as my, invitation. And here I have my address. Now, we're gonna assume that this is we're gonna assume that this is a postcard where people are going to receive it at home as in the mail, right? So it's gonna have this space dedicated to address and mail. But we're also going to use it as advertisement. So on this side, we're going to write, come to my event, or we're going to take some of this text to advertise the store or something like that. So it's not going to be one that's blank where people write. We're actually going to do some text of our own. So it's still like a marketing piece, but we're going to send it to people's homes. So we want to have space for a stamp. So up until now, what we had used in page 1 were things that existed, photos that had already been created, and we created a name here. Now, just so you know, this isn't the same as creating a logo. I haven't used Illustrator yet for us to create a logo for this postcard. Sometimes I first have us do the logo and then I make a postcard. I like to vary things and change the order of things. So we're going to assume that we don't have a logo and that the name of the font choice we made and the name of the cafe. I can't say cafe today. I've struggled over the word cafe every time I try to say it. I don't know what's in my brain. Every time I try to say cafe, I go dead. But anyway, the cafe's name we're going to use as our logo. So we're going to have the name here of the cafe. Maybe we'll have, maybe it's an open house. Maybe it's just telling them about the history, or like this text says, if you read it, it's about the history of where coffee came from, right? So maybe it's just a little bit of that, and then you'll have the address of the place and stuff like that. I'm going to go over here and create stuff that doesn't exist yet. The whole point I was making is in the front, we have cards that exist, logos maybe that already exist from Photoshop, from Illustrator. In the sample here, we brought text that already exists. So everything else already exists. But InDesign, you can also make, well, it's not true. Let me think. This black box didn't exist. So we made something new a little bit, one rectangle. That was a bit of something that we made. Okay, so we're going to make some new stuff of our own here. So first of all, we want to divide it in half. So if I want to divide it in half with a line that divides them, one side for the marketing, one side for the address, we just went through a small explanation is how do I find out where the center of something might be? Like that line has to line in the center, even if it could be off. We're establishing that there has to be a line in the center for our two parts of our postcard. How would I find that center piece? Looking at it right now, if I know nothing else, if I just look at what I have, one thing I do have is the rulers. Like if I don't create boxes and stuff like that, I have the rulers. And if I look over here to the left, if I haven't changed the position of my rulers, then by default, the 0 is my trim size, is at the edge of the white. See over there? And this is the ruler for that trim size. And then this ruler here starts at that point. So that's the point 0. See that? So if I want to find the center of this image and I'm good at math, I can go and measure this and I can go over here and see that this is 5.47 and I can, find the center. Guess what? I don't do math. I'd have to pull out the calculator. I can't off the top of my head. Yeah, 5.47. It's not that hard to figure out what the center point of 5.47 is, but what if you have a number that's very, 7.39582, whatever, right? So one way to do that, I'm going to go grab a ruler from here. Just grab a ruler and even bringing it over, right? And even here, when I try to set it to the middle, is there anything kind of telling me any like magical green line? Yeah, one of those pink smart guides telling me? Nothing is telling me. Nothing is really telling me that this is the middle. If I did go to the calculator and figure it out, I would know that it's probably 2 whatever, 7, yada, yada. I don't know. I don't have it on top of my head. And I know it's somewhere over here. So I'm going to put it back. I went and just didn't drop my ruler. I put it back in there. So we're still left with having to figure out what's the center point of this document. So again, how hard or how easy is it? I just like to just grab a rectangle and go from end to end of something that's even, right? So I can go from end to end of the bleed, end to end of the trim, or end to end of the margin. As long as they're all the same, it doesn't matter. Because the whole point is that if I go from end to end, so let me go with trim size, for example. As long as I go end to end, if you start at the trim size, go to the trim size, then I can just really quickly grab a guide and drop it right there. Boom, I found my center. And then I just hit delete and I got rid of my box. So the same trick I kind of showed you for the text is what I use sometimes when I don't have anything established yet there to find center points, right? Now, when you create a line, so again, I just grabbed a frame, a rectangle that I just made. I could have used a frame, you know, this frame. It would have worked just the same. And I could have gone from margin to margin and dropped it in the margin and then see the center point is still in the exact same spot, right? And then delete it. So the whole point is find something in an even way to give you that line, and that's your center point. Now, if I didn't have this guideline, so now to not have this guideline, I can either grab it and hit delete, or I can grab it and put it away in the ruler. That's another way of doing it, right? I can hit delete or backspace, or I can just drag it back into the ruler. Now notice that if I put it in here and drag it and leave it in the pasteboard, it stays. In the pasteboard, it doesn't disappear. So if you really want to get rid of it, you need to take it all the way and drop it back into the ruler, okay? Not in the sides, because then you end up having a ton of weird little lines on the side. So plan B, I'm going to start by making my straight line. Now here I have a line tool that I can click on and choose. And as you can see, when I draw it, it goes nothing but straight, right? I'm going to undo Command Z, 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 Z. But it comes out automatically at a certain no fill stroke, and it has a certain stroke to it, right? So now I want it to be perfectly up and down. So if I guess at what's up and down, I probably won't figure it out. I'm going to hit Shift, and then it'll force it to be perfectly up and down. So I'm going to get it as near to what I think is up and down as possible, and then hold down your Shift key before you let go, and see how it forces it to be completely vertical. Again, I can be near enough to vertical. If I'm over here near enough to this and I hit Shift, it'll jump to its nearest. So now jump to 45 degrees. If I'm over here, it'll forcefully shift to perfectly perpendicular. So it depends on whatever you're the nearest. When you hit the Shift, it'll forcefully jump to that size, okay? And so now I've made a line, doesn't matter how big or how small, because the first one we make is going to come out with these settings. And I can decide to make it bigger or smaller. How about we make it just for showing you guys, it's better if I make it bigger. For actual my taste, I would probably make it a smaller, less than 1 point, or like a hairline. It depends on the design. But right now I'm going to leave it bigger so you guys can see what I'm doing. But now I need to, I don't know, I dropped it somewhere, but I had taken my guideline, my guide that I had put in there is gone. So what can I do if I got rid of my guide? I mean, it would have been really easy to draw it along the guide, but since I got rid of it, and I told you guys to get rid of yours, watch what happens. Now that I have an object and I go back to my selection tool at the top, if I grab this object, now I do have smart guides helping me because I have something. Before there was nothing there, but now as I move it to the middle, boom, when I hit that center, that's not a guide that I used. That's the pink lines that appear. Those are smart guides telling me, hey, you hit something of importance. And in this case, the only object or think of importance it can think of is the fact that I've hit the center point of that page. Does that make sense? Whereas before I had nothing, so I had to make myself a guide. So if you want a permanent guide because it's going to help you for other stuff in the future, go ahead and pull out a guide. I use guides all the time. But if you're just trying to put one thing in there, the moment something exists, before nothing was popping up, but the moment something exists, then it's going to try to find and tell me, oh, you've hit some important point. And in this case, it tells me that it's in the middle. Now, if I move this down like this, once the tip hits the middle, now it's telling me, oh, you just got the tip of this line isn't exactly the center point of this document, right? So it needs to have a reason to turn a smart guide on you and to tell you that you're there. Okay, so let's put it somewhere in the middle. Do I want it to divide completely or not? We can change that, but say that for now I want it to go from top to bottom, then I can go ahead and draw that line top to bottom. I probably want less than that, but you know, for now, just showing you how to make a line bigger or smaller. Now, if I wanted that line to have a different shape, I'm going to go over here to that line, that stroke. basically the outline of this line, but it's the line tool. That's why I keep calling it a line. But if I wanted this stroke to be a different color, of course, we assume you could go in here and change the color. We haven't yet created our own colors in InDesign, so we're going to go with black. But if I wanted to change its shape, I could go over here to the sample that they're showing me of this line, and I could turn it into maybe little diamonds, right? And it's so little. Let me actually make the stroke much bigger for just to show you this. I'm going to go and make I don't know, a 10-point stroke. So you see how that stroke became made of little diamonds, or I could have it be a triple stroke, or I could have it be a dotted line, or I could have it. Now, remember, this is 10 points, so it's really huge. But if I decide to go with dots and go back to 1 point, then I'll have really tight little dots there. Okay, so just the line, the stroke doesn't need to be always a black line or a simple line. It can be made out of stuff that's here, slants or whatever, dashes, wavy, right slashes. So anyway, these are things. Now there's more options in a library, but for now, let's stick with one of these kinds. I'm going to go, I'm pretty much into simple stuff myself. And if you ever put like dashes or dots, people think it's the thing to cut. So be careful with lots of little dots or lots of little lines. I'm going to go just, I'm just going to go with a solid. I mean, I'm feeling kind of simple right now. I'm just going to go with solid again. But I just wanted you to know about the options were there, but choose anything you want. Choose your choices. So I'm going to go with a 1 point solid. If I had corners of some kind, then I could choose corners, but there's no corners here. So I'm not, you know, this line has no corners. So it's going to be a simple corner. All right. So if for any, I'm going to bring it, if for any reason I want it to be more transparent, then I can play with the opacity, et cetera. But for now, and then effect, for now, I just want it to be aligned to divide my two sides. Now, let's go ahead and make a little spot where again, I'm wondering where my things are, but stamp sizes, I'm trying to, I had it, I thought I had it in the handout, but let's just go and make what I think might be a stamp size. And again, I'm going to draw a little box over here, and I'm inventing this stamp size. Notice that when I'm creating a rectangle, see how a little gray box is telling me width and height. So if I know that the stamp is supposed to be, say, 3/4 of an inch by 1/2 inch, I can, you know, eyeball by looking at, see what I mean by that gray thing that's showing. And so I can stop somewhere around 75 and the height of 1 inch. It's not that easy ever to completely hit both of these, but there you go. I managed to do it. No, I had said 75 was the height and 1/2 inch. I don't know how big stamps are really, I am guessing. So see, I'm using those numbers there to guide me, but if I let go, it's not that easy. I mean, it's good to guide me, but it's not that easy. So what I can do is also make it any size I want and then go over here. And then I can just change this and just say 0.5, right? And then here 0.75 and then hit return. And then I know that I got it exactly right. That's the second, the width and the height. These are the X and Y axis, like where you want to place it. Sometimes you know that something has to be exactly at a certain spot. So that's the positioning of it, but I barely use that right now. All I wanted is the right size. So I'm inventing the size of a post edge. I think proportionally it's probably a bit more like that from my memory, but I'm feeling a little bit vague on this. So maybe for this one, I'll put the dots. You can put a little icon, you know, with a little curvy lines that stamps have. You can write, what is it? Postage stamp here, right? That kind of text in here, or you can just leave a little box. We all kind of know with the W, we all know if we look at this, that that's supposed to be where you put the stamp, right? Okay. Now, let's go ahead and we want to enter some address, some text. I want you guys to be kind of free to write whatever you want on the back of your postcard. But I want you guys to consider that we need probably the logo, right? Let me look and bridge. I believe I had put some logos in here. But I'm not seeing it. I was pretty sure I put a logo. Just a logo of some kind. Usually I put one or two logos to bring in, but I don't see a logo. Well, I guess this is, no. Usually we make our logo before we get to this stage. I thought I had a logo, but I don't. So there you go. So much for being prepared.
Diana,
Change my files and I try to always have everything I need, but I didn't put logo in there. Yes.
so somehow my move tool doesn't work. Shall I just share my screen and
Yeah. Let me stop my
Okay.
share. Mhm.
oh, where are we? Here we go.
All right. So
So
you're trying to move that. Oh, yeah. So this is something I forgot to mention. This is the same as in Illustrator. When we created this rectangle, by default, the initial rectangle comes out with no fill and a stroke. So you're trying to grab it from the middle where there's nothing there. So you need to grab it from the stroke.
okay,
Okay.
okay,
Yeah, so see over there on the right side now, it says
Right,
appearance, fill nothing,
right.
stroke
Mhm.
0. So if you're trying to grab it from the middle, it's like trying to pick up a ring
Right.
from the air. Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And my other question is, see how my ruler is, it's not 0 in the corner. It's something
Yeah.
else in the corner.
Yeah, and it's, so at some point so if you go ahead and go command 0 so that the one page fills your screen.
Command
Standard command
0. Did it work?
Yeah, no, nothing changed that I saw, but okay. Are you on a Mac or PC?
I'm on a Mac.
Okay, command 0, it should have filled the bottom page should have filled your screen. Try that again, command and hit 0.
Okay. Hold on for a
Leave the command
second.
there, and then
I lost my own screen. Here we go. So command 0. There we go.
Okay, so minimize minimize that whole thing, not from there, but from the double-headed arrow. Like you took that little icon that you clicked that gave you this window. Go up to what you were hitting. I'm trying to get
Okay.
this.
Yeah, I
layer
know.
there.
I have the Zoom stuff in the
Oh,
way
that's it.
and it's annoying me.
Sorry, yeah, no, I understand.
Okay. So where do I go?
Second, yeah, get rid of these layers is what I'm trying to say. So collapse.
So
the layer.
W. No,
No, no,
collapse the
no.
layer.
Go to the
Yeah, I
right.
see. Yeah.
When we don't need the layers, go and
Yes.
click on the little icon, either the
There we
double hit.
go.
Get it out of the way. Perfect. And I just wanted to see the whole thing. Now, see what she's saying is that her 0, right, is not in the right spot. But in fact, all her numbers are a little bit off. And so can you point to where your 0 is, which is kind of
Yes.
up there, see where your SAMP is? So I'm not sure how you got it there, but I do know how to fix it. If your rulers are kind of all over the place, go to the left side where the top, yeah, and double click right there. Double click. There you go. So
Oh.
now see how you
Yeah. Okay.
centered your zeros to the trim
Yeah.
size. That's where they go. to
Okay.
the trim size,
Okay. Yeah, that
Now,
probably
wait, let me
happened
show
when
you-
I was looking for a guideline or something.
Sometimes you need some symmetry for some reason or another. So
Mhm.
say that you need the 0 to be somewhere else, right?
Mhm.
Because you did move your 0 unwillingly, but you did.
Hmm.
So let me show you how you moved it so that you'll know how to move it next time on purpose. Say that you need the 0 to be at the black line. Sometimes people need to have a symmetry. So
Mhm.
you know that from the center to
Right.
the right, you need something half an inch away from both sides to the center, right? So
Right.
then you would want to move that 0. So
Okay.
go grab that same spot where I told you to double click.
Uh-huh.
Okay, double click. Right, just single click on it and drag it now. And move your mouse.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's how it happened.
Now go, yeah. So now go back and drag it this time and drop it. Go back from this, no, from there, yeah, from the corner. It needs to be picked up from the corner and then go and put your mouse over that center line.
Okay.
Grab it from there. Everyone do this to yourselves. and drag, and you don't need to be on there. You can be in the design.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, but you could have put your mouse
Mhm.
on the design, try again. Go back and go click and drag, and then go and select that line. Go all the way, not select, but click and drag your way and
Which
drop it.
line?
That black line that we just drew, that is our center.
Uh-huh,
point.
this one, yeah.
So go from the corner again,
Uh-huh.
drag your mouse, and then
Ah, I see.
there you let go. And now
Ah.
you know for sure that your zero, move your mouse up. Your
Right.
ruler zero, move your mouse up to point, so everyone can see it, is right at that center line. Does that make
Yeah.
sense, you guys? You move that zero to your heart's content, because now you can say, okay, I need to put in a box that starts half an inch away or quarter inch away from the center line on both sides. Well, then you center your zero. So you guys move that ruler around until it fits your needs. Does that make sense? So I'm glad you asked that. So
Cool.
now everyone
Thank you.
knows that. So, yeah,
Okay.
cool.
Thank you.
That's fair. So I'm gonna, again, I love it when people have certain questions really help in the sense that I can show you a few new things that I wouldn't have thought of showing before. So I wanted, this is the same for all of the applications, right? You use this here. So maybe I want to make my 0 point right here for the side one, because now I want something to start only half an inch after. And so now I put another guide and move this to exactly half an inch under that 0 and see how I'm marking it there. And now I know that my next design has to start here. So I use guides and stuff like that, but I move my 0. But when I double click, then it kind of centers itself again, because sometimes your stuff is all over the place. But again, I don't have to kind of guess where that is there because I have those lines, but I can also even just touch and drop right there. And then my 0 moved to the right spot. Okay, double click to leave them back where they were. I'm going to go ahead and do the following. I said I didn't want to do a lot of research, and I don't, because I want to keep focusing on doing the design. But I want to show you really quickly that there's a lot of places online where you can legally download some stuff that you can use. And I'm going to go ahead and open up a browser page anywhere. And I'm trying to blank. I think it's scheduled for January or for the spring semester. I have a class that I teach just about free design elements and applications. And it's all about creating content and using free content that's online. So anyway, that said, I'm going to go over here and write Pexels. And Pexels or pexels.com, whatever, when you hit the return, there's so many different places that are free, but this is an example of a place that's free. But it shows you not just photos, but you can also get free, so this is just for free photos, stock images, copyright free pictures and stuff like that. But I can't remember, I can't remember the name of the site that I like to go to for illustrations. So I'm going to write for free Illustrator logos, for example. And I'm going to say Illustrator because I want an Illustrator file. Then I can go over here. It should show up. There's one or two. They're all Vecteezy. That's a good one for. It's not showing. There's one that I use a lot, but for some reason it's not showing up. So I'm going to go for the first choice, which is Vecteezy. I'm going to click on logo, vector, icons, free, and graphics for free download. I'm going to click on that one. I've never been to this one. So you kind of need to look them up a little bit if you're going to be downloading, but some of these give you anything, images, photos, PNGs, vectors, videos, so vector files, okay? That's probably, by the way, why the search didn't, because I used the word Illustrator instead of vector file. If I were to have searched free vector logos, for example, then I would come up. It's not coming up for the one that I like a lot. Anyway, so let me just go, since I was at Vecteezy, I'll go in here. So I choose to see only vector files. And then over here, instead of logo, I'll say, for example, cafe logo. Right? Or I can put in coffee cup or hello. Cafe logo. And so let's say that I want one of these. At the top, be careful because these are sponsored vectors. It takes you to iStock and whatever, and then these things are always the same way. And then down here, it'll tell you which ones are free or not. I'm not sure if this is the one that's going to let me quickly download this, but let's say that I decide that I don't know, this one here with a little, I don't like it, or a coffee bean. I'm trying to find one really quickly. Okay, let's go for Sunshine Cafe. I want us to download something. And I want you to download one of your own on your own computer. So go do this. I want a simple, here's coffee beans. I don't know, maybe that one. Anyway, the whole point is I want it to be free. I'm going to click on one and I also want it to be something that I get to change. Okay, I don't like this one too much, but let's go with this one. I'm going to go with this one. When I click on it, get rid of this. When I click on this, some of them make you sign in. That's why I wanted to go to the one that lets me just download stuff. But it's going to download this and it's going to be a vector file already. Okay, so over here, it tells me what kind of legal requests they have if I'm going to use it. Sometimes it'll say not for commercial use, yes for commercial use, yes if you're going to be doing it down, they want attribution, and so you go to the license, it says attribution required. So what that means is that if you use this for free, you need to say who created it. So then you go, how different people have different requests for the attribution. I'm going to click on that and it'll tell me if you're going to be going to video, nope, merge, web, print. So then please add vecteezy.com somewhere in the copy. You'll have different choices, right, of what they want you to write. It looks like this, all they want is for you to write vecteezy.com. So that's good. So anyway, so they want us to do that. So, okay, thank you. I'll copy it just so you know that at some point I need to do that. Probably for a logo that I'm going to be using all the time, I probably shouldn't use a logo, right? That I have to constantly be using attributions, but then it's on a logo. But anyway, so I'm going to click on free download. It's going to download into my computer's download folder. So get one. And I'm on Safari, so it's going to ask me if I'm sure that it's okay. It's a good site to do. I know Vecteezy is a name that I haven't used it, but it's a name that exists out there as a real one. So I'm going to say allow. And now I'm going to go back to my InDesign. And I'm going to, not into my InDesign, to my, what time is it? I'm trying to see if I have time to modify it in Illustrator. I think this is the, hold on, I need to look at my calendar because I'm drawing a blank. So many different schedules. This is 4:15, right? We finished today? Yes, I was vacillating between 4:15 or 4:30. So I want us to start using Illustrator, and that's why I wanted to know if I should open it up in Illustrator or not. But for now, let's not go into Illustrator. I will probably get there by the end of today, but in case we don't, we just want to bring in that logo that we just created. Now, notice that what I downloaded, I'm not going to check right now. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but what I downloaded had two parts to it, right? So I'm going to go ahead and say file place. So hopefully you all downloaded something. And if not, just do it while I'm showing you this. I'm going to go to my downloads folder. And so if it's a Mac or PC, it doesn't matter. Whatever you download, go into your downloads folder. And then I have a folder here called Vecteezy. And, oh, it's interesting. It gave me an EPS, not an SVG. Okay, well, an EPS is a vector file. It also gave me a JPEG or a PDF. None of these are gonna work for me. Oh, the PDF is just the licensing information. The JPEG is not gonna work as a logo, but it gave me an EPS. EPS is a vector format. I'm surprised I haven't seen vector formats. I should have stuck with, I'd like to download actual Adobe Illustrator files, but anyway, got an EPS one. I'm gonna say open. And when I try to place it, as you can see, I got both, because remember I showed you I had two that were being downloaded. So I'm gonna do this good old thing. Remember, if I single click versus if I click and drag. So I'm gonna just single click. And there it is. Remember, humongous, who knows how big it is? It's completely out of the way. Just trying to show you single click is usually not a very good idea, because so I'm gonna, I deleted, I should have just said Command Z. So I'm gonna have to place it again. Usually you want to tell it what to do, okay? Because you wanna usually tell it to be a certain size. So I'm gonna go ahead and put it in here, just like we did with photos, click and drag. And we're left with, in this case, Illustrator or a vector file that is not exactly what I want. But it's a linked file. So if I go to my links and check on, first of all, it's telling me that's in page 2, that it's an EPS. If I click on it, it tells me other information of when it was done and when it was made. But because it's an EPS, I can edit and see how this is not grayed out. Like if it were uneditable, this thing in edit original would be useless to me. But I can edit it, and if I want to edit it, it's just like PSDs or JPEGs or whatever. I cannot edit this inside of InDesign. I have to go and edit it in the program that it was created. Now, today, right now, we're not going to be editing any logo that you drag down. If you want to play around with this and open it up in Illustrator, those of you in Illustrator classes, go ahead and do it. So right now, all I'm going to do is I'm going to change the framing. That's all, and hide half of it, right? So that in my case, this is the logo that I end up with. But do you remember how I made this bigger or smaller? You know, remember how we did it for the for this page? If I wanted to make something bigger or smaller proportionally, because right now, if I try to grab the frame, that doesn't make it bigger or smaller. It's just cropping, right? I crop this out of the way. So I'm going to just kind of crop this so that I approach whatever logo you guys downloaded. I need to hold down Command and, well, if it's a PC, it would be Control. I'm not on VDI, right? No, good. So I'm going to hold down Command and Shift for a Mac, or Control and Shift for a PC, and then I can make it bigger or smaller. In this case, though, this is the stuff that we learned the other day. In the link, notice that last time when we did this, it gave us all the resolution information. Let me go back to the beans. Actual PPI, effective PPI. We spent a lot of time talking about that and what difference it made and how important it was. I'm going to this EPS and nothing there. Zero importance. Because it's an EPS, because it's vector files, it was created a vector file. No matter what size it was created in, I can make it as big or as small as I want, and it'll always be sharp, and it will not matter. Does that make sense? Because it's a vector file. So the link doesn't even bother telling me that, because there is no such thing. Now it does tell me scale down at the very bottom. So I'm scaling to 11% of what it could be. So it could be a ton bigger than what it is, but it doesn't really make any difference because it is a vector file. So I'm going to go ahead and whatever one that you created, I'm going to just, here, I'm just going to go with the art. I'm going to get rid of the text. So I'm just going to use this little bean here, and then I'm going to use my little Demitas text. So again, I'm just putting in a little logo in here at a certain size. That does not at all matter resolution wise, and it's showing. So you can see I have a lot more in there, but I'm only showing the little tiny bit that I want. So the rest, if I were to want to see the rest of it, whenever I tell you guys to not click in that center, like kind of circle that it has there, when if you do and hold, it shows you the entire piece. So of this entire image, I'm just seeing one little bit, okay? Just that little bit is all I'm seeing, but I click and hold and let go. If, and this is just moving the content. If I click and hold and move from there, I can move my content around to choose that what I'm going to just show is just that little bit. If I click and hold, I can just choose. So it's like I'm moving the content inside of my frame. See that? Now, you might not have a logo that came in this way, so you can't see this right now, but just so you remember, when you have that little circle in there, what you're moving is the content. The frame is staying, that blue frame is staying, and all I'm seeing is what I put into that frame of my entire piece. And so my entire piece is the whole two pieces of here. This is what I downloaded. This entire thing is the file, which is a white and a negative, black and white version, but the file ends up there, right? And it has text and everything. And all I'm allowing to be seen is just one little bit. So back into InDesign, and I do that by modifying, I'm going to get bigger, by modifying it, moving the content independent of, sorry, this mouse, I hit this mouse that I have here at school. So I'm moving the content in the frame independently of the frame. And I do that with this little center widget. If I were to click and drag up higher, I'm beginning to see this portion of it. If I drag a bit lower, I hide it. If I move over to the left quite a bit, I'll start seeing the black version. Okay, so now back to seeing what I want to see, which is only this little portion of it. Did that work? Did you guys download a logo by now? Any logo? To have something in here. It could have been a sunset. I don't care. It could have been a mountain. Just download some vector file and bring it in and play around with it. It doesn't matter if it's the perfect logo for a coffee bean house or not. Now notice that after playing around so much with this internal content mover setting, right? Then, and it has a name, and I'm remembering the name of this little widget, the content something. Notice that what I am seeing out here is in a brownish kind of outline. It's the ends of this file that I'm just hiding, but the whole file is here. I'm just hiding it because I'm only looking at the frame. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to my V, click out in the middle of nowhere, go back to my selection tool. And now when I click again, I'm going to avoid that center point because now I just want to move this piece itself that is showing what I want. And I just don't ever touch that circle, because if you touch the circle, boom, you're moving that out of the way again, okay? Command Z. So once you have a frame that's showing you only a portion of what you want, you need to be very careful to not touch that little center tool, because now you can move the logo whichever way. Okay, so I'm going to put that guy somewhere. I'm going to put the name of the coffee house. Now, here's the thing. We have already supposedly put it up on top. I think I had put it up there. We spent a lot of time in Austin. This is one of the things that I did a lot of work with last week in the CC libraries. We put the font and the text for whatever font and text you chose for the Demi-Tasse, put it in our libraries from Photoshop. We had opened Photoshop, we put it in here, and then we brought it into InDesign. So I could choose to write it again from the libraries, or I can just grab it. If you guys did put it in the front page, I did, and just copy from there and paste it in the bottom. Or just so you know, in InDesign and Illustrator and any of these, if you want to copy something, instead of copy paste, in this case, it might be easier to copy from the front page and drag it to the second page, or put your mouse on this text, which I need. I selected it. Hold down your Alt or Option key and see how my mouse turns into two little arrows, and then just drag. And I have dragged out a copy. So I know I'm gonna undo. I'm going to copy and drag right there. See, it's a copy. But if I drag it, if I can see both, and I copy from here, hold down, I'm not copy pasting, I'm just holding down my Option or Alt key. Just drag out, and there's your copy. Okay, so here's exactly what I have in front. I'm going to change the color of it. I'm going to go over here to the fill, choose the text and make it black, because we're going to make the back be black only. And then this is font, so I can change the font size to make it smaller. Okay, so maybe this is my Demitas logo. I'm just inventing because we didn't really choose a logo with a font, but let's say that this is my Demitas and my logo. Now I hit the Command minus and hit my W. And so that's, I'm beginning to put together my back portion. I know I'm going to want the address, and this I'm going to move up a little bit because I'm moving some space in here. Now that I see what I'm going to see, I'm going to kind of cross the address at the bottom. Although this might be where I'm finding the guidelines matters, because I believe that when this, if this were not, if you're going to do this as a marketing piece, I think the stamp from the post office has to go down here, you know, the one with the bars, instead of that there. So you might need to leave some space here. I digress. If anyone wants to research, the first weekend I had told you guys to do some research on formats and different companies of postcards, but it would be good if someone wants to research stamping or commercial mail, what area you need to be clear. They have templates in the post office, which areas you need to be clear of design so that they can put in their automatic post. And I believe it's down here somewhere. Can't remember right now. So anyway, let's go ahead and put in an address. I don't know where I want to put the address down here. Maybe I'll put it up here. The address. So I'm going to say 123 State Street. And notice that when I first write 123 State Street, it tries to come out in the last font that I used. So I'm going to go back over here and have to change that to whatever I'm using now. I'm not going to have us go through the whole choosing fonts again. We kind of did that the first day, so I'm going to go with anything and make it much smaller and make it be black. Now, I forgot to explain the why of why I'm choosing black for the back always, because when you go to all these companies and find out prices, depending on the company you choose, usually printing in black is considered just one color printing, and it's usually much cheaper than printing in 4 colors. Now, if you're going to these digital companies like Vistaprint, it's usually the price is the same if you go front 4 colors or 1, if it's one of these established, like for business cards, they just ask you front and back. If you decide the back, they charge you more because you're putting stuff in the back or in the front. They don't seem to be charging much more if it's 4 color or if it's black. So I think for some reason, these digital printing companies might not make such a difference. But you be careful where you print. You always need to find out, because usually printing black is much cheaper than printing color. So I'm going to go with that in the back, it's going to be black. So anyway, 123 State Street, you put whatever address you want, Santa Barbara. So I kept writing, but when I wrote, I had my text box small. So although I kept writing, how do I know that it didn't show up? Because I might not know the address of this place is because of that little plus sign. Again, that plus sign, the red plus sign is a giveaway is a giveaway that I have more text. So I gotta make the box bigger and there it shows up. And obviously, since I couldn't see what I was writing, I have some typos. Okay, so our coffee houses in Santa Barbara, California. So I'm gonna say control 0 so that I can see my entire thing. Now, I hit a return here. I hit a return to write Santa Barbara because that's what we are accustomed to writing. Let me actually put in a type tool and say Santa Barbara. Usually we might write California 93103. And again, I kept writing in a smaller one. So this might be a typical way of writing an address, okay? But then I just told you that if you change your boxes, it should have redrawn itself, right? Based on the samples that we did here. It should have exchanged, it should have gone up and down. Well, the big difference is that here I hit returns, okay? So if I hit the return, nothing's gonna happen. If I get smaller, yeah, it's gonna try to get itself in there. But if I was wanting this text to be long, like to go to the bottom of this and be long, I can't hit the return because this does not work. It only respects text that has not had a return. So if any of you guys had hit a return in here at some point, so over here, for example, there's a return, there's a break. And so when I redraw this, it's gonna redraw that, but it's going to respect that paragraph. It has to have been made with a return key. Like here I did. Anyway, so say that you wanted your Santa Barbara to not do that, then you would have to go and hit undo there and make, I don't know, make space or whatever it is that you're gonna do for California 1, 2, 3, and not hit that return. Then, if you don't have that return there and make that fit, then it is doing this weird thing because it's redrawing for the size of the box. So then the box has to be bigger and you have to make it fit so that you can put that, for example, down here in California should be uppercase CA. And then you can make it any size you want as one line. So just be careful because the redrawing only works for stuff that has not been forcefully separated. All right. I'm not sure if I wanted it in one line or not. That's design choices. I'm not liking the fact that this is so tight. I want to make more space in between this, but my text box is commanding. This is the size that I'm reading right now. So I'm going to make more space between these letters and get a bit closer to show you what I'm talking about. So I want to add space between these letters. So here in the text area, I am going to change, this is my kerning. No, not my kerning, I'm sorry. I don't want my kerning. I'm going to change my tracking. But I looked at the name because I was like, nah. Okay. So this is considered letting, tracking, and kerning. These three names, all they mean is space between lines, space between letters for the entire word or paragraph, or space between individual letters like we did at first with the logo. So if you remember, if you forget which one is which, just hover over it and you get the little tooltip, right? So anyway, what I want is this one. I want all my words to be having a bit more space in between them. So I can click and say that I want to add 5 more space, and it's just going to get a little bit bigger. See that? The font is not changing the size. It's 12 points, but the space got a bit bigger. Or I'm going to go all the way to the biggest one they give us here by default, which is 200. And when I do that, I have a lot of space between my letters, but suddenly, again, offset text. Why? Because I had such a small text box. So be aware that your text box is always going to be limiting. If you start with a limited text box, you're going to be limiting the size, changing stuff. So I like to start with bigger text boxes until all my text is laid out. And then I decide if I want it to have more or less, space. So now by having this grow all the way to as far as it can go, and this is another trick. I'm gonna make this text box go from end to end, and remember that it can't go beyond these lines, from end to end of what it can go, which is these, those are my two margins, right? And then I'm gonna hit the W. And now I can ask it to be centered. And I'm gonna go to the, oops, I didn't mean to do that. It was in here. I want to go to my paragraph. And I can center it. So now I know that for sure it's centered amongst my entire postcard. Why? Because my text box got centered. See, it went centered between the two margins. Now, if my text box had been just as big as my text, I would have had to do all my jigamaroles and rigamaroles to see how to center it. So all I do is I extend my box to something that for sure is extreme. And then when you center your text, then extreme, it goes to the edges, right? To the established margins in this case. And then when I center my text, I can relax and not have to measure it anymore because I'll know that it is actually perfectly centered. Does that make sense? So you use that holder to help you organize stuff for your needs. So again, I don't know if this is correct or correct placement for it being mailed, but design wise, if I want to move this a bit further down, always be mindful of your design because maybe I want to say, oh, that's, I kind of like it right there. I'm going to put it way down there, right? And then if you look at your guidelines, you discover that you put it outside of the safety area, okay? So always be mindful of designing within what you like, but also safety area. So in this case, I'm going to put my text right there touching, and I'm using my key arrows right now to give it that final nudge. So I'm going to put my text, the whole bottom of my S's and my B's on that line, but my text box is hanging outside. It doesn't matter. All that matters is that my text be in the area that is safe. Okay, so that is a safe place to put this text. That said, be always aware that if the trimmer makes a mistake and cuts in to this area, you might end up, worst case scenario, with your text having no space underneath it, but at least it won't get cut off. So knowing that, you might go, I think I can make it move a little bit higher up. So even if they make a mistake, I got a little bit of space underneath it. Does that make sense? Like keep your brain always being aware of that trim machine that you might need to give it a little bit more leeway. All right. How are we doing with your guys' designs? Hopefully you're creating things that are much more interesting and creative than what I'm creating. I'm just showing you stuff, so I'm not looking. But again, this class, it's not about how creative you are. It's about if you know how to move your things and set up things correctly. If we want to create a little bit of history, you can go over here and read what this person wrote. In this case, I know that it's not that much more than that, so I can make this bigger so I can read the whole thing. And it's information about how coffee got created or what it originally was called or whatever. Maybe I just, this, by the way, I didn't know when I read this the other day. I did not know that Americans drink more coffee. You know how British people have tea all the time. And it's because of the, after the Boston Tea Party. So, I mean, it makes sense when you think about it, but I didn't know that that's when Americans stopped drinking tea, because for the most part, Americans don't. Regular American doesn't drink much in the way of tea. Anyway, so you might want to bring any of these texts. You might want to rewrite it. You might want to write cafe owner, you know, Subrita invites you to our coffee. Like you can put some stuff in here. But right now, I'm going to say that if we want to create anything that has color, so that's goal I have. I don't care where you write it, but I want to create something that has bleed. for the backside. So when I say that has bleed for the backside, or that it's gonna be, it means that it's going to have color that goes to the edges, okay? So when you say, does this image have bleed right now? Look at this postcard, does it have bleed? No, it doesn't. There's nothing here that requires being worried about the bleed, just the text margins. So make sure, by the way, that the logo, wherever you put your logo, also falls within the edges of what we talked about, that can, the margins, right? Because you want to make sure that you don't have the logo being cut out. This doesn't match. None of this really matches. This logo and this bean don't go together, but I'll live with it. I want to create a band of color, maybe in the bottom, maybe in the top. So I'm going to grab a rectangle, and maybe I want to make this text like that, be in a black box, right? So if I do that, well, first of all, in layers, since I created it last, I know that I'm going to have to bring it down under my text. But then I still don't see my text. And how come I do not see my text? And what if I don't even know how to select my text? I know it's there. The reason I don't see it is because it's black text on a black rectangle, right? So if I want to actually see it, I have to select it, but sometimes it's hard to select stuff that you don't see. So I'm going to go over to my layers and remind you that you can select stuff from here. And I'm saying remind you, but I don't know. I know that I talked about this in Illustrator. I might have not mentioned it here. But I can go over here, and I know that where I have my text is this one that says 123 State Street. So if I click on this little box right there, that box that holds my text shows up. As much as if I click on this one here, then my demi task shows up, et cetera, et cetera. So now clicking on that, I can go back to the fill of this text and make it be paper. Oh, sorry. See, I forgot to change frame. So I just made my frame white. I'm going to go back to having my frame be none, and then go back to my text and make my text paper. There we go. So now I have been able to move my text, and I'm going to make this nice little black box here so it's a bit more centered. All right. What do you guys think about that? Is it going to work for the printer? It says no errors down there, so it might mean that it'll work. What do you think? I'm seeing a couple of people being puzzled. Why are you asking? It's obvious. Others are saying yes. Others are laughing. What do you think? Use everything I've taught you to tell me.
You should check the bleed.
Yeah,
Like-
the answer is I have no idea. I cannot have an idea until I see all my guidelines. I designed in presentation mode, and it looks fine, good or bad. I might like it or not, but it looks technically fine. When I check my bleed, hit the W, I go, ooh. I mean, if I'm aware, if I am a student of me, I would go, oh, no, I didn't fill my bleed. Okay, so yeah, grab your bleed and pull it out. If it's going to have color that touches the edges, it needs to go all the way to the bleed. Down here, though, if I pull it all the way down to this bleed, then it's going to be something that has the bottom of the postcard. But if I do that, how does that look for my text? My text might look a little bit weird. So I might need to move my text down a bit, but I can't go past this margin, right? So then if I look at that and I go, well, I'm touching the edge. If this gets cut off, that's okay. But I can't just say, oh, that looks bad. I'm going to center it. Because if I center it, boom, I'm in trouble again. So keep an eye on your margins. Make choices of design that look good, but also protect your print. Okay. So now you design in this mode for it to look good, but you check. It could have been that it was fine or not, but you don't know until you check this way. Okay. All right. So now I've done that. So if I want to have this look a little bit more centered, I might have to make my bottom box a little bit bigger, right? so that I for sure have enough space in there. And then I can either have this touch the bottom or I can have it close, whatever you want. I'm just gonna go with touching it. Save your file. Give me a screenshot of whatever it is that you created as the back of your postcard. Maybe you put some text, maybe you put a logo, maybe you said, come to happy hour, coffee happy hour for free tasting, or roasted beans, hand roasted beans, you know. I'm happy to have anything you want be on the back of this card. And set it up as a screenshot. Take a screenshot of this. And let's go, I'm gonna go to the Padlet. Make sure everyone remembers to post. I tend to forget sometimes. Let's head over to the Padlet. And I see some people put in this their texts. Okay, so that's fine. I wanted you guys to do a screenshot of the text. I also want you guys to post your you can also you know, on the Mac at least you can copy paste. I have a screenshot and upload that and publish. Okay, so so here I see one. Thank you. So Ed put his sample text and he put his back of his postcard. Tess, put your sample text. Everyone go and do a screenshot of your sample text as well and post that, and then post whatever you got going here. Again, it doesn't need to be awesome. It needs to be stuff that I can check. So if you post this, I can't tell if the bleed is good. So remember, either post both, or at the very least, post only this one, if you're going to post one. If you post only this one, I can't tell whether you filled your bleed, right? So for the purpose of this class, try to post both would be better, or at the very least, post just the one that has the bleed so that I can go, yeah, technically it's fine. Your text is inside of the lines up here, and the bleed is fine. So that's really what I need the most to see if you are making it work in that sense. Okay, so just so you know, I just copied this stuff instead of I can also sit in here and just do a paste, and I thought that had worked last time. Oh, it's not letting me paste it for some reason. Maybe I didn't copy it. Okay. Disney. Oh, I didn't do the right shortcut. And this time. So this one has all of the stuff that I need to see and publish. Okay. All right, so class has been over for 2 minutes. And so if you guys have any questions, meaning I'm not going to teach anything new, make sure to save, but I'm happy to see how it went with you guys. And you have questions, see Dot, your hand is up. Yeah. You're muted. You're still muted. There you go.
I had problems when I tried to bring the thing I downloaded in, it was so big and I couldn't get it too small. I think I need to share my screen.
Okay, go ahead and share your screen, yeah. Don't forget, you guys, to interrupt me in the midst of doing stuff too, because when I don't see questions, I just keep going.
Well, it was just,
Right.
yeah,
Show
it was
me
just something that,
page 2. Yeah, it's humongous, right? And you can't even get to the bottom to change its size. So there's 2 things you can do at this point. One, the shortcut to make it smaller and all that, you couldn't even get to the bottom because that's how big it is. So one is to delete it and bring it in again. And this time click and drag. Or B, since you're here already, okay, so I'm going to show you guys, anyone pay attention. If you're here already and you don't want to go and select it and paste it in again, you can go up to the top. You have your, you're not in your essentials, so that's good. You're in your Adobe, in your InDesign panel, you didn't choose your essentials, so all your, instead of being in your properties panel, you have it on top, but that's fine. Go up to the, no, it's okay, because you're not in yours, you're not using your properties panel, maybe that's why you get lost a little bit too. You're not using the same panels I am, but.
It was, somehow I lost my properties panel. Not sure
Okay.
what I did.
No, but don't go back to the front, because for those, if you have it right there. Wait, don't keep moving around. Don't keep moving around. I'm trying to tell you what to do. Put your mouse up at the, right there. I see your mouse now. Okay. Now, right kind of above and to the left of where you are, do you see 2 boxes that have numbers, 4 boxes that have numbers?
Right. Mhm.
Yeah. So what you can do is you can change the numbers under behind W and H to a number that's at least, going to fit into a postcard. So make sure, since you don't know the proportion, wait. Since you don't know the proportion, click on the link that shows you, make it proportional. And now choose the top one and make it maybe 4, right? So you need to select everything and just type in 4 and then hit return. Now, since this was linked, the bottom one became a 2. And you see how you quickly resized that, right?
Mhm.
Now, I'm not sure what you brought in because I'm not seeing anything in here either.
Well, it
But
was-
let's go and center, wait. Let's go, wait. There's solutions to everything. So go up to the same panel. Now, last week I showed you all how to do this in the panel that's on the right in the properties. But now go to the same place where you wrote the 4. Move up to where you wrote the 4 because I can help you when you see your hand. Okay, now way on the right side of this. So you have to follow, go to the right, keep going to the right, until you get to keep going, and stop right there. So here's where you have your fit.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So move to
Yeah.
the one on the right, the next one, the one on the right, and fit content. So click on that. And there they come. All right.
Okay.
So now you made your frame a size that's logical for this size. And then
But
you.
see, I had this other one. Maybe this was the one I tried to come in before and couldn't figure out how to get it in.
Mhm.
Now I made another box or something.
Okay, which other box do you have? This is the one that was huge. So if you
Yeah.
don't want it, you can get rid of it now. Just hit delete and it'll disappear. If that's not the one you wanted. And then this seems to be the same
Same
file.
one.
You need to fit it in content. Go and hit again that fit in content. And there,
Okay. Oh,
only
okay.
this time it's a box that has a border. So maybe instead of a frame, you put in like a rectangle or something. And so it's got a stroke to it. So just go to the properties and take the stroke off, which is right in the middle above.
Stroke,
right
yeah.
there. Go ahead and say 0 and then you don't have a stroke. There we go. So then that's that. Okay. Now you can choose to click on the corner of one of these and hold down both your, are you on a Mac or on a PC?
I'm on a Mac. That was a problem. I was hitting shift and command,
Yeah, so hit shift and command and it should work. Hit shift and
and
command.
then I hit a corner.
Yeah, and then now stretch. And the whole thing will get bigger or smaller. Yeah, now let go of your mouse. See how it all got proportional? bigger
Okay,
or smaller?
okay,
Now,
that
that
was
was
it. Okay.
impossible to do when the shape was so humongous, right? But
Right,
you can now shift
okay.
command to make it bigger or smaller, but then without shift or command, just change the frame
Like
so
this.
that you see only the logo that you want to see.
Yeah, okay.
Okay?
Yeah, I guess I was trying to click in the center and do the
Yeah, that
man
center
and,
point, yeah, that center point is that not the shift and command.
no,
it's
not the center point, but I was just clicking in here where my mouse is.
Yeah.
And I was trying to do the plus and minus and that wasn't working.
No. Command plus command minus is to zoom in and out of the whole image,
Yeah,
but it's not to change the image sizes themselves. So yeah, good point. It's just so that you approach or get away, but the shape, the sizes stay the same.
Now,
Cool. That
my
works.
question, my other question is, how do I get my properties panel back where it was?
Yeah, so you want to go to your, yeah, I go up to where it says advanced, yeah. and
Oh,
then go
It
to
should be in essentials, right?
Yeah.
Not sure how it got into advanced and essentials, how it got out
So
of
here
there.
you have
Okay,
your properties. All right,
okay. Great, thank you so much.
you're welcome. And it's not
Never.
that it was a problem to use the others if you know and remember how to use them, but it's just that they're different from what I'm showing.
Yeah,
and sharing. So there you go.
okay.
All
Great. thank
right.
you.
So, oh, Jenny said that Zoom kept kicking her out. She's gone now. Everyone's gone. Bye, everyone. And Austin, are you still there or are you not really there? You might have just not disconnected.
Bye, thanks a lot, Deanna.
Bye, Dot. See you next week.
Yeah.
Or
Tuesday, Thursday.
on Thursday. On Thursday.